exactly what's the definition of success, right? If you're looking to be a huge corporation, a huge Nigerian-led, Nigerian-owned corporation that intersects with all of these agencies and organizations that we are saying are riddled with systemic issues, it's going to be difficult.
It depends on what you're looking for in life, what success means to you, and so on and so forth. Again, I say when people say, when I make that point, I say, look, I'm not saying if you find evidence that I took a bribe. You don't have to find evidence. Just produce the activity, the venture. Say on this venture, this transaction, you took a bribe. I know for a fact that nobody can show that venture, that activity, in which I took a bribe. Am I saying that I'm a saint? No, I have problems, I have all kinds. But I'm acutely aware of the consequence of bribery. Because the things that you take a bribe on don't usually get done, or as well as they should. And society pays a dearer price for it.
30 years on, Integrity stands not just as an organization, but as a testament that integrity builds leaders, shapes nations, and keeps hope alive.
My message to the Integrity Organization at 30, the first thing I will say is I want to say a big thank you to the organization. One, for the support that you have given a farmer. Two, for opening our eyes to see that some people are standing up for what is right.
Let me congratulate the team at Integrity and the Convention on Business Integrity for a job well done. To be able to consistently over 30 constant challenges.
I want to congratulate Soji and the team for the work they do every day, and to say that, look, they say little drops of water makes the mighty ocean. Even though it's 30 years, it might still feel as if the drops of water are too little when you compare to the humongous challenge of trying to turn a society like ours around, where integrity is concerned. Congratulations to everyone for the work done so far, and don't get overwhelmed by the work that is still ahead. But get it done, we must, and leave a legacy for the next generation. Chimo. Thank you.
There is a generation rising in Nigeria, not defined by titles or politics, but by a quiet conviction that honesty still matters. 30 years ago, a group of Nigerians chose a different path. They believed that integrity could be more than a moral choice. It could be a tool for national transformation. So they built an organization around that idea. They called it Integrity Nigeria.
My name is Olusoji Apampa, and I am one of the founders of the Integrity Organization. For the last 30 years, I've been helping to steer the organization. I don't think integrity can become a norm. I think that more people will choose integrity as a way of acting, and fewer people will continue in the way of corruption. There's no country that has zero corruption. So In a society where integrity is preferred, even more people will want to be here.
I'm not so sure what the younger generation think about integrity or whether it's different from the past generation. Frankly, I can't speak for a generation that I'm not a part of in that sense. But I think that what integrity means is what it means. I think through the years, it's meant the same thing. Truth is truth, honesty is honesty, forthrightness is forthrightness, corruption is corruption. There might be a sense in which some aspects of corruption have been normalized. There might be a sense that people may not even necessarily know that certain acts are wrong.
Young people nowadays are in a hurry. They want to get rich quick. Life is a sprint. It's not a marathon, as far as they are concerned. But life is not like that. If you are likely to build a strong structure, you must have a strong foundation.
The young people have a slightly different orientation about Nigeria. Many of them I encounter sometimes don't even know the difference between what is ethical and what is unethical. That's a challenge. The line between appreciation and corruption is blurred. So everyone I encounter tells me, oh, we need to appreciate the registrar. Even the judge sometimes says you need to facilitate the process. Those words connote a negative practice. And the young people have imbibed it. So you have first the challenge of actually telling them that is not right.
This documentary traces how it all began, the vision, the struggles, and the people who stayed the course when it was easier to compromise. It is also about those who carry the torch today, proving that integrity still has a future here.
Sometimes it's misleading to try to compare business today with business before, because the culture of business, the way business is done, compared today with the past, the first thing I would say is there is more politics today than there was in the past.
I would say that it's easier to run business now because I think Nigeria has evolved in terms of regulation. You know, prior to now, things would happen and it's only after things start that regulation is built around it. But largely now you find that there's a lot of regulation that is ongoing in Nigeria. And you see, where there's regulation, business is easier to do if you're willing to work within the regulatory framework that governs the business you want to do.
It's well known that in the Western world, that about 80% of businesses don't go past the 50th year. So starting a business, growing a business is a huge challenge because most businesses fail very early. Now, talking about starting a business in Nigeria, I think it used to be more difficult.
So the government should come in and see how we can help all these small and medium scale industrialists to have access to some basic infrastructure that will make their business to grow.
Today, 30 years later, the impact of that choice can be seen in ways they never imagined, in public policy, in advocacy, and in a new generation of Nigerians who share the same conviction. They call them the Integrity Generation, young professionals, entrepreneurs, and citizens who believe that character and competence can still go hand in hand. And from the boardroom to the grassroots, their stories are rewriting what it means to succeed in Nigeria.
Everything good and great has already come out of Nigeria and will continue to come out of Nigeria in spite of corruption, in spite of fraud.
Point is that even as we talk about corruption and other evil things happening, we have to acknowledge that there are good things happening as well. So yes, good things can come out of this environment.
But the good things don't make the news. Nigerians seem to do better outside Nigeria than in Nigeria. I think because of the ambience in which they work. Where they have the opportunities, they shine.
I think there are very many decent Nigerians. We underestimate the number of Nigerians who personally have made the choice to do things right and live right. They don't do it for anybody else, they do it for themselves because that's what they know to be right. And I think just because the people who do the wrong things are so much louder, we tend to color every Nigerian with the acts of the ones that do the wrong thing.
It may not be fair to say that everyone has abdicated their responsibility. It may not be fair. But the truth of the matter, clearly, is that the Nigerian elite, and when I say the elite, we're talking about the political elite, the religious business, as well as even third sector, the civil society, clearly are responsible for formulating the ethos of the society.
I think as a mother, now not speaking necessarily as a professional anymore, one of the things that saddens me the most is the lack of role models, and the fact that as a parent that cares about doing the right thing because of the way I was raised, having to go to places with my children where you're constantly having to tell them that's not the way to behave. Don't jump a queue, don't bribe, behave yourself, be respectful when you interact with people. It's the fact that we're as a society not raising our children together.
If you are not willing to stand up to what is wrong and ensure that it is done the right way, that people do the right things and they do things right, then it starts to decay. And we see that decay everywhere.
It has become the norm for us. When you see things that are bad, you either say, oh, I don't want their wahala. There must be a change in that narrative, because if we don't change that narrative, the cycle continues and it becomes worse.
Integrity is not a very loud voice. What you hear loudly is getting things done in alternative ways, which are not in tandem with what you want to call an integrity culture. And as it is now, that'll be certain people just realizing that going the integrity way is the only way to raise and sustain your business.
Corruption exists in both private and public sectors, so it's not a one-sided thing. To get people to pay attention. Now, when you get to the question of can you be 100% honest and succeed, what is success? So you can be 100% honest in Nigeria and live and survive. That is for sure, right? So when you say and succeed, look, my first question is what's the definition of success, right? If you're looking to be a huge corporation, a huge Nigerian-led, Nigerian-owned corporation that intersects with all of these agencies and organizations that we are saying are riddled with systemic issues, it's going to be difficult.
It depends on what you're looking for in life, what success means to you, and so on and so forth. Again, I say when people say, when I make that point, I say, look, I'm not saying if you find evidence that I took a bribe. You don't have to find evidence. Just produce the activity, the venture. Say on this venture, this transaction, you took a bribe. I know for a fact that nobody can show that venture, that activity, in which I took a bribe. Am I saying that I'm a saint? No, I have problems, I have all kinds. But I'm acutely aware of the consequence of bribery. Because the things that you take a bribe on don't usually get done, or as well as they should. And society pays a dearer price for it.
30 years on, integrity stands not just as an organization, but as a testament that integrity builds leaders, shapes nations, and keeps hope alive.
My message to the integrity organization at 30, the first thing I will say is I want to say a big thank you to the organization. One, for the support that you have given a farmer. Two, for opening our eyes to see that some people are standing up for what is right.
Let me congratulate the team at Integrity and the Convention on Business Integrity for a job well done. To be able to consistently, over 30 years, keep the flag flying is really commendable, especially in a society where these issues face constant challenges, and we haven't found the critical mass yet of individuals, organizations, and government that are prepared to really go with this agenda and make it happen. So I think it's very commendable. I think the organization has done very well over the last 30 years.
One of the things that I think is special about Integrity Organization is the innovation that has always been brought to this march against corruption, to the anti-corruption fight. So I want to say, please keep it up, continue with innovation, continue to grow the space of advocates. You're doing a really great job. I am so happy that I've been a part of this journey. And here's cheers to the next 100 years or more.
I want to congratulate Soji and the team for the work they do every day. And to say that, look, they say little drops of water makes the mighty ocean. Even though it's 30 years, it might still feel as if the drops of water are too little when you compare to the humongous challenge of trying to turn a society like ours around, where integrity is concerned. Congratulations to everyone for the work done so far, and don't get overwhelmed by the work that is still ahead. But get it done, we must, and leave a legacy for the next generation. Chimu. Thank you.
Umma na rayuwa cikin tsoro da rashin tabbas, suna tsammanin komai na iya faruwa a kowane lokaci.
Habu? Mamma, me yake damun ka? Hawa ba abin da yake damuna. Haba Habu, ni mamanka ne. Gaya min gaskiya, me yake damun ka? Mama an
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We're about to begin the occasion, but can I ask that all of us who are seated at the back, could we please just come forward? Please, could we come forward? Let's fill all the seats in front here, please. Good. Shall we all rise for the national anthem? We shall sing just... Nigeria, we have Nigeria. We shall sing just the first stanza and recite the third as a prayer. Okay. O God of all creation, to the national anthem. Thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and you're welcome to this first, hope will be a series of the National Integrity Conference. And this particular conference marks the celebration of 30 years of the Integrity Organization. So you're welcome. I welcome all dignitaries, speakers, partners, invited guests, young leaders, creatives, development partners, and participants joining us on site and National Integrity Conference. Thank you very much. Do we have the security manager? Okay, we'll have the security briefing when the manager is around. So today's gathering is an important moment in our national journey, a moment to explore the rise of a new kind of Nigerian, the integrity generation. Those who commit to doing the right thing and doing things right. We're honored to have you here as we begin the conversations that will shape the path ahead. But before we go, I would like to give the opportunity to a few people to give their goodwill messages. Permit me to call on Mrs. Lola Adekoye from the Africa Hub of the Center for International Private Enterprise. Please, a round of applause for Mrs. Lola Adekoye. And apologies for the trek.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pampa. I didn't get to exercise this morning. I was so excited, so the trek is nothing. But good morning. It truly is an honor to be here and also to be the first to give this. I want to speak from the heart, but I'm very excited this morning, so I'll do some reading. As the first, I will be very bad at establishing protocol, but I'll do my best. May we recognize His Excellency, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. The chairman of the board of the Integrity Organization, our big sister, big auntie, Mrs. I've blanked out for a minute, Mrs. Awoshika. I forget the first name. Pardon me. The mayor of Islington, who's visiting and attending to honor the Integrity Organization. Members of the Board of Trustees of the Integrity Organization, the representative to Nigeria of the UNODC, partners, friends, colleagues, and dignitaries here present, good morning. Good morning. Mr. Apampa, of course, co-founder of this great organization and brilliant partner of the Center for International Private Enterprise, and all of the CBI team, the Integrity Organization team represented here today. Good morning. It's truly, truly an honor to be celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Integrity Organization. It does truly mark the exceptional leadership and impact that this organization has accomplished in a difficult space to work in, advancing anti-corruption initiatives and building a culture of integrity in the development space is one of the most difficult things to measure, especially in the short periods where funding flows to organizations. For those of us who work in this space, we understand how difficult it is when you have to do monitoring and evaluation indicators and say, well, how have we moved the needle on reducing corruption? But this organization is one organization that has not only stood the test of time, but has also stood the test of that impact measurement that is really difficult to do. Advancing integrity and accountability or good governance is truly, truly not a walk in the park in any country, but especially in Nigeria, where over time, the vested interests in the weak or governance gaps that we've had has made it even more complex to understand or even identify corruption in certain cases. And I speak from experience. We do anti-corruption workshops often, and I have been in situations where we describe corruption events or, activities, and sometimes business partners cannot identify it. It's just a matter of culture that has been eroded over time, the culture of integrity and values. But addressing corruption in a positive way, CBI has designed different initiatives from whether it's from the collective action initiatives they've been leading to other collaborative initiatives, including the more daring initiatives where they involve law enforcement. CBI has been one of the most innovative partners we've worked on in this space. And I really, truly want to commend every member of the CBI team. So, I'll close by emphasizing, because goodwill remarks, I should keep it to 5 minutes, but you really don't tell a lawyer to speak for only 5 minutes. I'll close by emphasizing some of the work they've done with the MACN, which is the first time we did a review of CBN's, or I call them CBI, but the integrity organization's work. And when they demonstrated a certain level of boldness that moved beyond collaboration to working with law enforcement to shake up difficult vested interests in corrupt systems. But after doing that, starting from the grassroots, not stopping there, to build institutional capacity, set standard operating procedures, and then teach every partner in the value chain, the transactional value chain of the maritime sector, how to transform their institutional systems and how to make sure that people coming into the sector for the first time, or those who are in the sector, develop new ways of working that's different from the old ways. If you know anything about change management, that's difficult to do. So for us, that was how we identified a partner we could work with for the long term, because they did not only dismantle a problem, but they then started to rebuild and teach and train and handhold all of the stakeholders in the sector. And so for the last 7 years, 6 to 7 years, we've continued to build our work with the Integrity Organization. And now, it gives me a great sense of delight to pause and even look back and say, well, the founders of this organization had a vision 30 years ago. And today, that vision is giving birth to so many foundations that many other integrity organizations can build on. That's remarkable. They're not only having impact, but they are also creating opportunities for many other organizations, including in the private sector, to work with. Many years ago, when you did anti-corruption work, we focused only on the public sector. And then you had so many partners funding work, focusing only on the public sector, forgetting that there is, the supply side of this equation. I remember, and I'll close with this, I remember when I first joined SIPE, and I was told about 10 years before I joined about 7 years ago, that the Integrity Organization, Mr. Sochia Pampa, was going around trying to convince private sector partners that you had a role to play in addressing this corruption challenge. It's not only a government issue. I won't repeat the response he got, but essentially they shut the door in his face, essentially is what it is. They didn't see how private sector had a role to play. And when we started to design business-led anti-corruption programming, we almost started to lose hope that there was ever going to be a groundswell until we met the Integrity Organization. So I want to pause to thank the founders and to thank Mr. Apampa for carrying this flag, thank every member of the Integrity Organization's team for continuing to carry this flag, even though the doors kept getting shut in your face in the early days. Not now anymore, of course, but you've done the hard work, and so thank you. So finally, a call to action. As we look forward, I can tell you this congratulations is on behalf of the entire team, the Center for International Private Enterprise. I can tell you that we're committed to continuing to deepen our partnership with the Integrity Organization. We're committed to continuing to support your work, not only in Nigeria, but across the region, across sub-Saharan Africa, and globally. I hope that as you continue to drive this mission of elevating governance and practices, and also building strong institutions in Nigeria, I hope that we continue to record great impact in the country and throughout the region. So once again, congratulations on this remarkable anniversary. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you very, very, very much for all the hard work you've done over the years. Congratulations to everyone.
Thank you very much, Lola. Sorry, you can't go down that way. No, you can't. Please, a round of applause for Mrs. Lola Adekonye. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, what Lola is referring to, we started Integrity during the Abacha regime. So to give some context, you can imagine how nervous the business community was about associating with anything that looked remotely activist. And many of them said they will call us Nadeko. They will say we are Nadeko. I would like to sleep in my own bed. I don't want to get arrested. Sorry, anti-corruption is anti-government. And therefore we cannot support you. So, but we've come, and things are very different. They're not much better, but they're very different today. Anyway, let me call on a dear friend, Mrs. Ayo Maji, from the Africa Leadership Initiative West Africa, to also say a few words. Sorry, we actually have the chairperson of the Africa Leadership Initiative West Africa. There's no such thing as an event on a shoestring. No. We tried to do it on a shoestring, and even double up as MC, it still costs the same.
Thank you, Soji. You're a natural MC, by the way. You do it so well. I would like to stand on existing protocol. Mine will be a short speech and then a charge. The speech is the easier part. It is with great honor and admiration that ALIWA, the African Leadership Initiative for West Africa, join Integrity in celebrating 30 years of outstanding service, leadership, and impact. Over the past 30 years, you have remained a steadfast champion for ethical business practices, transparency, and accountability. As you commemorate this Pearl Jubilee, may Integrity continue to break new ground, expand its influence, and deepen its contributions to building a just, ethical, and prosperous society. Can we give a round of applause to Integrity? I thought I would end with a speech and, go back to my seat. But I experienced something on Sunday at church, and I said there has to be a charge and a call to action. And the reason I decided to do that is for Integrity to make the impact it needs to make. It needs to go ahead of the curve. And right now, I get a sense that the malaise in society is pulling far away from so many of the change agents and change initiatives we have. But the reality is that no business or person can really rise too far above the society they are in. I listened to the video that played just as we came in, and we could see that these are people we have known for years, the same DNA of change agents, Patutomi, Ibukwa Woshika, former vice president. These are the same people. So it's not surprising hearing what they had to say. But we literally need to create an army of people who will hold on to this change theme of integrity, or the likelihood is that we will fall farther behind the curve. Now, like I said, it's very difficult for people to rise above the societies they are in. And there's a saying that fish discovers water last. Why does fish discover water last? Because it is born in water. It doesn't know what water is. So the day you tell it, this is water, it says, really? It's water? I have known it. I mean, I've been in it all my life. And that is unfortunately the situation in which many Nigerians are being born today, where the norms and the mores are such that they don't question, because that's all they've known. And I'll give 3 examples, and just anecdotal. One is a young girl on Sunday who gets up to give a testimony and talks about how she failed a paper and will need to resit it. And she cries, she prays, and she calls a teacher in her university, which I will not name. And the teacher says, don't worry about it. I'll do something. Lo and behold, a week later, on that same dashboard that had an F, she now has a B, and she's going to graduate. And this was a testimony. What hit me was that she had no clue. She had no clue. She had just taken a swipe against her university, and probably even her chances of employment. But for her, it was a good thing. Let's go to the business community. A few of us have attended ethics programs when at times we say, if it's under duress, you can do it. But today, so many businesses have a budget for PR that they can no longer tell me that it's under duress. They are now actively complicit. Yet, it's the expected thing, it's the norm. Or a government agency, a regulatory agency, where people ought to be trained for mastery in that area where they regulate. But guess what? The money for such training that should make them experts at regulation is diverted or misused, such that they lag the industry that they ought to be regulating. So we see this malaise across so many aspects of society, Soji. So the charge really is, how do we close the gap? And I do hope that as part of today's deliberations, that will be it. It isn't that 30 years hasn't been great, but I think the point we are making is that so much more is required. And the thing about soft things like integrity, they said they are the harder things. You can't touch it, but you know when it's there or when it's not there. And I'll quote, probably my final message here will be from The Little Prince. I think the last line of a poem. It says, what is essential is invisible to the naked eye, but we know it in our souls. So I think while I congratulate everybody here and Integrity for 30 years of great work, my charge is to amp it up a bit more. And thank God we have the tools. We have artificial intelligence. You don't have to be everywhere. Avatars can speak for us and push through the message of integrity. We can do more to recognize and reward people who stand up for integrity. In other words, we need to be more creative. We need to go ahead of that curve. So thank you so very much for listening. Aliwa congratulates you, and we wish you a wonderful deliberation today.
Thank you very much, Uwa. That's a very important charge that we have been given. How will integrity catalyze the closing of the huge integrity gap in our society? And the truth is, if we're able to fix the integrity gap, we would have fixed so much that is wrong in our society today. Okay, we have a few more tributes, just about 2 more. From the Lateef Jakonde Leadership Academy, represented by the Exat Agbaje Okwade. Please, if you can come up. Please keep in because it's a long way, it's a long walk here. It looks like your fellows are in the room. Aha!
Of course, thank you. Good morning, good morning. Thank you so much for having me here today, and all protocols duly observed. Good morning, Mas. I see Mrs. Ibukov Aweshika. I'm such a big fan. Good morning, Ma. Good morning, sir, Your Excellency. I'll just go straight to my message this morning. All protocols duly observed. Good morning. It is my honor to join you today on behalf of the Lateef Jakonde Leadership Academy and the Lagos State Government, led by Governor Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu. The Lateef Jakonde Leadership Academy is an institution born out of simple but urgent conviction that nations rise only when their young people rise, with intention, discipline, and values. At the Academy, we hold a firm belief, very firm belief actually, that leadership is not an appointment, it is far from it, as a matter of fact. It is a culture, so we're trying to build a culture. And cultures are built carefully and deliberately. They are very carefully built. And they are consistent, very consistent. So over the years, we have seen firsthand what happens when young people lead. We've seen what happens when young people are given opportunities and not just structures. And not just given opportunities, but also structures. Not just inspiration, but responsibility. But real life problems to solve. So I'll share a brief story about our fellows. A few months ago, one of our fellows led a team tasked with exploring solutions for children with special learning needs in public schools. They could have ticked this box, simply ticked the box as their capstone project and walked away. Instead, they chose courage. They mobilized donors, engaged with Ministry of Education and other parastatals, and worked tirelessly until in the public school in Ikeja, as they installed a digital learning board that is now helping the children who were previously invisible in the system visible. And that is what leadership looks like. When young people are trusted. Another team, passionate about safety and urban development, worked closely with multiple MDAs to restore lighting to Alausa's pedestrian bridge. Very popular bridge, by the way, used by mostly journalists. For months, the bridge remained dark, unsafe, and avoided. But that project, led entirely by young people, changed a small pocket of our society, of this Lagos, and reminded us that governance is not abstract. It is lived in everyday details that shape people's sense of dignity. These stories are not outliers. There are evidence, in fact, evidence that when young people are given up direction, mentorship, and clarity, they do not disappoint, they transform. It's proof, there's proof. But these outcomes also reflect our values at LGLA: service, excellence, courage, humility, a deep sense of public purpose. We train young leaders to understand that integrity is not a theory, it is practice, very practical. It is how you show up when no one is clapping. It is the quiet strength you must carry when you're trusted with public resources, public people, and public hopes. Today's gathering and the work of the institutions like Integrity Organization, which we are happily to partner with, remind us that of a truth that reforms may set the stage, but policies and reforms may set the stage, but it is people of character, who determine whether progress will continue or collapse. This is why youth development must be intentional, not symbolic, not decorative, and in our own Nigeria manner, an afterthought. It can't be an afterthought. Every time I sit with brilliant young Nigerians, whether they are building companies, innovating tech, or navigating the public service, I'm reminded of what talent we have and how much potential our country carries. What they need is not pity. What they need is pathways to serve, to contribute, and to lead. At LGLA, we are doing our own best to build that pathways from our various programs, from the fellowship program to our emerging program called LGLA Start and Scale to LGLA Impact Lab. We have Lagos Leadership Summit that convenes, young people, thousands and thousands of young people every year. And we're teaching them a movement of responsive, adaptive, and values-rooted leadership. We have seen what happens when young people are prepared. We have seen what happens when they are guided. We have seen what happens when they are believed in. And so today, my goodwill message is simple. It's my introduction that is long, but my message is simple. As we celebrate Integrity Organization today, let us invest in a generation that will sustain it. As we honor accountability, let us prepare the young people that will defend it. As we envision a new Nigeria, let us empower the young people that will build it. On behalf of Lateef Jakande Leadership Academy, we're proud to stand with partners like Integrity Organization who understand leadership is a legacy work. Slow, steady, and deeply human. May integrity not be what we preach, but what the next generation can inherit from us. Thank you. Thank you, and congratulations, Integrity Organization.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Wow. May integrity not be what we preach. May it be our legacy. May it be the torch that is carried forward. Lateef Jakande Leadership Initiative. Ha! Okay, while they're still clapping for the executive secretary, we've got 3 more, pardon me, all the way from Abuja, because as you can see, we had to partner with those we've been working with and who are scale agents for youth. From the Federal Ministry of Youth Development, represented by the Director General of CYMS, Chief Obinna Nwaka. Let's take some comments, some goodwill comments. Lateef Jakande, it's not fair. Thank you very much indeed, Chief.
Thank you, sir. You can do better. We can do better. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having us today. My name is Chief Obi Nawaka. I'm here to represent my boss, my leader, the Honorable Minister of Youth Development, Engineer Ayodele Olawande, who is currently on another crucial assignment. Tomorrow, the Honorable Minister will also be unveiling and launching electric tricycle in Abuja. So today they are having a very crucial meeting to ensure that they put everything together for young Nigerians. Also, so today, we have a series of activities in Abuja. I myself, personally, I'll be taking one award, but I've asked my colleague to represent me, also be delivering a goodwill message somewhere. But because this event is very crucial, integrity is something that we must not just talk about, we must also instill in our heart. I will not do like others by resting on existing protocol. I must recognize few individuals here. Let me start by recognizing the presence of my role model, my leader, and someone I look up to while he was a flag bearer, vice presidential flag bearer of All Progressive Congress in the year 2014. I used to watch him speak. I used to watch him appear on both radios and TV. I said, I would like to be like this man. In the year 2015, the first political summit that was held in Abuja, International Conference Center, I was one of the young people that was invited from Osinbajo in Abuja. I just showed him the picture. Then a few months ago, I was also with him in United Nations building in Abuja, where I also represented the Honorable Minister of Youth Development. When I received the directive from the Honorable Minister, I look at it, my father is coming, I must be here. So before my father walked into the venue, I told one of the organizers that please allow me to take my position. Fortunately, he put me beside my father. My leader and my role model, thank you for nurturing people like us who have admired you from far. And everything that you see that we do today, especially people like me, I emulated it from him. I am not going to read much about the minister's address, but I want to be sincere with all of us that everything that we do today, we must remember that tomorrow must surely hold us accountable. And whatever we fail to attend today must surely also wait for us tomorrow. Honorable guests, distinguished speakers, esteemed partners, ladies and gentlemen, and our vibrant young Nigerians. Greatest Nigeria youth. Greatest Nigeria youth. It's my profound honor to join you at this landmark celebration of the 30th anniversary of Integrity Organization. 3 decades of steadfast commitment of ethical value is no small feat. It is representing an enduring legacy one built by courageous Nigerians who believe that our nation could be governed by integrity rather than impunity, by character rather by compromise. In 1995, a small group of visionary citizens dared to imagine a Nigeria where transparency, accountability, and ethical behavior will shape our institutions and our national identity. Their determination continues to eliminate the path for a new generation, one that's eager, capable, and ready to reshape our nation. That's eager, capable, and ready to reshape our nation. This year's National Integrity Week theme, the Integrity Generation, Rising for a New Nigeria, could not be more timely. It speaks directly to the heart of our national transformation, and it reinforces a truth we must continue to uphold. Nigeria's future depends on integrity, innovation, sense of belonging, and ensuring that instilling of leadership into the bedrock of trust. And the trust is ensuring that instilling of leadership into the bedrock of trust. And the trust is an anchor of any thriving society. Most of the challenges we are having today in our nation is lack of integrity. Lack of integrity in leadership. Lack of integrity in our public sectors, in leadership. Lack of integrity in our public sectors. Lack of integrity in our families. Lack of integrity in our overall generation. But however, as the Ministry of Youth Development, we must, and we have, as the Ministry of Youth Development, we must, and we have been committed to nurturing a generation that does not just merely talk about integrity, but also embodies it in leadership, entrepreneurship, civic participation, innovation. Our young people must also know that they are not just the leaders of tomorrow. They are leaders now, shaping policies, driving industries, and transforming community. I am also committed in discharging many duties with integrity, in providing opportunities and platforms to ensure youth development through various programs, initiatives, and activities such as NIA. What is NIA? Nigerian Youth Academy. This initiative, Nigerian Youth Academy. This initiative is encouraging every young country today. PICNG initiative, presidential initiative, compressed natural gas, very significant move to ensure that our vehicle do no longer use its PMC. So it was an initiative of the past administration that the present administration is now leveraging on. That's why we have everywhere today CNG buses and blue vehicles. And the current administration is doing excellently well to ensure that the young Nigerians take advantage of it, because conversion of PMC vehicles into CNG cannot be done by the older generation, by the older ones. It is by the young people. And this initiative will bring a lot of job opportunity to us. We have the Youth Confab. Mr. President recently inaugurated 41 members, the National Planning Committee of the Youth Confab, just to ensure that they come together to discuss about their well-being, governance, innovations, mechanized agriculture, hoping that anytime soon we are going to launch that program where Nigerians, 36,000 Nigerians are going to be brought together to make it encourage Mr. to have a civic trust, ethical leadership, and a future of governance that will help us shape the narrative of our great country. Integrity is very simple. Being honest. We must be honest with ourselves. Whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a student, whether the leader of your community or a traditional ruler, when you are not honest, that means you don't have integrity. When you don't have a strong moral principle, you don't have integrity. When you cannot be responsible for your action, you don't have integrity. I was just passing through Ojota, and I asked some of my friends, is this not Ojota, the dumping site? They said yes. That same dumping site, few years ago or many years ago, I was there working as a scavenger. I worked as a scavenger to write my JAMB, my first JAMB, and I secured 245 in my JAMB. I secured admission into University of Nigeria and Sokoto, where I studied economics. I was so honest with myself. I knew my parents were not well doing. I had to work. I had to pick a decent job so that today I'll be where my peers, my younger generation, my family, and my village will be very proud of. The integrity did not just stop there. Even when I secured admission, there were several challenges. I picked up a job as a security man in Fidelity Bank. I worked as a security man in Fidelity Bank from my second year to my final year. I combine by studying and working together. But today, I'm also standing before you to speak and to represent the Honorable Minister of Youth Development. I was so sincere to myself. I knew there was a financial challenge. I had every opportunity. When you are a student, especially when you're in the campus, you have every opportunity to do whatever I want to do. You can be a prostitute, you can be an armed robber, you can commit crime. But I was so honest to myself. Hoping I don't go this way, take this job and become a better person tomorrow. So when I was undergoing my master's University of Aberdeen, I celebrated with my classmates. They don't know why I was celebrating. They never knew secondary school was through hardship. University was through hardship. But as a master's student, I studied as a big boy. So let us have it at the back of our mind that the people are also looking up to us. I will take today. There are so many people that want to emulate.
To introduce a very important person. Before we proceed, please note that this conference is proudly delivered in partnership with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. It is my honor to invite to the stage LJI. LJI. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Asking permission from His Excellency Protocol. Good morning, Excellencies, Head of Agencies, partners, and friends of integrity. 30 years, 3 decades of stubborn, courageous, unrelenting work by the Convention on Business Integrity. 30 years of proving that doing business the right way is not naive. It is the smartest, toughest, loud. Congratulations, you didn't just survive 30 years, you changed the game. Congratulations. Our friend and one of the sharpest minds on this continent when it comes to integrity. Ladies and gentlemen, let me be crystal clear about what integrity is actually. It's at 2 a.m. when no one is watching, which is, will I build an app that serves millions, or will I write the next Yahoo script? Integrity is the difference between creating wealth and stealing it, between building a nation and bleeding it dry. Integrity is not just moral. It is the ultimate economic weapon. Countries that choose to become the default setting. Doors open for honest entrepreneurs and youth finally, and the Youth Peace Champion Network. UNODC are raising a generation that refuses to let armed groups and criminal gang recruits theirs against corruption. The treaty that declares war on the plague and feed every form of organized crime, like you, who live it every single day. So the Convention on Business Integrity, thank you for 30 years of extraordinary years. From a distance, make it the new normal in boardrooms, in startups, in villages, in government offices. Do the right thing when no one is watching, because that's exactly when it matters the most. Integrity now. Thank you very much, and let's the work begin. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. And now to a slightly more somber flavor as I invite our chair, Mrs. Ibukun Awoshika, to give a tribute to the late Dr. Christopher Kolade, who was our chairman, period. Aha. We know who you know.
Excellency, the former Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, the representative of the Minister for Youth and Development and Sports. Okay, Youth Development. I thought I got that right, but then wrong. Anyhow, all our guests, the Mayor of Islington, all our guests from across the divide, my colleagues that has considered it important to be part of a day where we're marking a very unpopular topic in our environment. If we were having one of the other kind of funky things, I don't think we'll have enough space to contain the people. However, commitment and the drive. And this is how we got to 30 years of CBI in fighting a very uncommon battle. Now, it would be impossible to talk about the journey of 30 years of CBI without talking about a man who was chair of the organization for 15. That literally tells you just the critical nature of his role and his commitment. Ambassador Dr. Christopher Kolade, a man of immense honor, integrity, greatness, sincerity, character, commitment, diligence, a man who, though he died at 93 just so many weeks ago in October, and we buried him on the 28th of October, he had lived a life across multiple careers, from journalism to corporate Nigeria, as a former chief executive of Cadbury Nigeria and a former chairman of Cadbury Nigeria. Having served, he was my governance teacher at the Lagos Business School. Many of us who went through the chief executive program at the Lagos Business School, there's not a single one of us that he didn't teach. I've been on the board of Cadbury for the last 12 years, so I've had the privilege and the honor to walk the path of the corridors where he lived and worked and continued to add value to the last moment of his life. I also had the privilege of having him. I had two gentlemen who were critical to my entire corporate governance work. When I was starting in corporate governance work in corporate Nigeria, I wanted mentors I could look up to and trust their character, their ways. I wanted the examples that I wanted to build my journey upon their ways and their values. And I chose two amazing men who to the end of their days lived true to the values that they held. Chief Olu Akinkugbe and Dr. Christopher Kolade. Dr. Kolade was that man who looked out for you even when you didn't think that anyone was looking out for you. I remember one day as the chair of First Bank, he was looking for me and I thought maybe he wanted me to do something for him. You know, I eventually found him and he said, "Come and see me." So I went to see him at home, made me sit down, asked his wife, "What do you want?" Give Ibukun everything she wants. I had a tray of tea and everything set. And you'd have thought, like many people when they're looking for you, there's something they're looking for you for. After he had settled me down, he then went on to say, "Okay, so tell me, how is the journey going? You know, where are the tough points? Where are the challenges? What are the issues? What do you need us to look into? And we spent the next 2 hours. I will never forget that particular day, talking about the work I was doing as the chair of FESPAN, the trouble spots, the challenges, the great points. And I left totally encouraged, strengthened, and given the license to walk the audacious nature that is required if you are someone who is trying to walk on the path of integrity. This was a man whose light shone the light for many to follow. And from day 1 to day 0, he never ceased to be the man that he was. I know many young Nigerians haven't seen enough examples that makes them understand what is truly the right thing to build after. And therefore, there are many people who think the wrong ways are right ways because it's generally permissible. But these were men who lived their lives every day trying to make sure that generations. He spent the last few years of his life spending time with young people. He used to go to schools to sit with young people and just chat for hours, answer questions. Why? He was trying to invest in building the minds and the thinking of a whole new generation. There are a lot of recordings of them which we hope will be released so that we can relearn from them. And books that have been written that will be released of his life, his story, that I hope you will seek to. So I'd like to encourage all of us, if you don't mind, if you can stand up with me for 1 minute, and let's honor a man who served Nigeria with billions, millions of minutes. If we multiply 93 years by 365, and then multiply by 24 hours by 60 minutes, and try and get the number. Somebody can do the maths if you care. But at every point, he gave us value. And those are the examples that we must seek to follow, because they give us the strength and the courage to be honorable people no matter what we see. May his memory forever be honored, respected, and may his memory continue to inspire generations of unborn Nigerians for years to come. Amen. Thank you. Please be seated. It's my pleasure, Soji, it's my pleasure at this point to invite another great Nigerian who, by the way, took over from Dr. Kolade when he finished his tenure as the chairman of CBI, but who invested time, resources, and everything to make sure that we could move forward with the same values, and who we proudly can say took those values which he believed in, invested time, and sought to help to establish as a culture in our nation, took it to the higher office, and gave us a lot of hope that indeed, when good men get into places, change is inevitable. And it's the reason why we must continue to nurture minds, because somewhere along the line, the opportunities will come and we will change our country. Please join me as I invite the former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, as he makes his remarks.
Thank you very much. Please sit. Thank you.
the representative of the Honorable Minister of Youth Development, who is here. And thank you very much for your very kind words. The Mayor of Islington, the country representative of the UNODC, the Regional Africa Director, Center for International Private Enterprise, and the Chairman of ProShare, the Chair of Integrity, the Integrity Organization, Mrs. Ibukun Awoshika, members of the Board of Integrity, co-founder of Integrity, Mr. Soji Apampa, the management and staff of the Integrity Organization. Let me say that it really is a pleasure to join you all today in celebrating 30 remarkable years of the Integrity Organization and the Convention on Business Integrity, CBI. Soji Apampa and I co-founded Integrity in 1995. We were both concerned at the time about the way corruption in both private and public lives, or private and public sector, continually damaged our economy and eroded the government's ability to render even the most basic services to people. Soji was particularly concerned about how private sector corruption damaged the reputation of Nigerian businesses and the very chilling effect that it had on investor confidence. We initially considered joining Transparency International at the time. Transparency International had been formed about 2 years before. But we found that we couldn't, it was better for us to work together rather than to join them, because they were focused on coalition building against corruption. But we wanted to address individual cases of corruption in both the public and private sector. We started at the time by publishing a single sheet, a pamphlet titled Scrutiny, where we detailed acts of official corruption. And we had a cartoon series titled Integrity Pays. The cartoon was simply, that cartoon series was simply to highlight the economic and social benefits of ethical conduct and integrity, both in private and public life. Nduka Obaigbena, the founder of This Day and publisher of This Day, then a relatively new newspaper, helped us to circulate Scrutiny every week by inserting it in the Thursday edition of the newspaper. So we're able to circulate our pamphlet through This Day newspaper. Later on, we drew up the Convention on Business Integrity, a document which we hoped and which we proposed would be signed by companies that were ready to pledge to observe the highest ethical standards in their businesses. We then hoped that this would create a body of businesses recognized for their commitment to integrity and high ethical standards. At some point, we approached Dr. Christopher Collady to chair Integrity. He didn't know either of us. He had never really met either of us. But he liked the idea and then said to us that, because he really didn't know us, he said, well, you need to persuade 2 other people with whom he shared the same values and ideals. And those 2 people were Mr. Akintola Williams, now of blessed memory, the doyen of the accounting profession in Nigeria, and Mr. Michael Omolayole, the respected business, he was very well respected in business management and in governance, corporate governance, and generally in corporate Nigeria. We spoke to them both, and it appears that we made a reasonably good impression. Dr. Collady then agreed to chair the organization, and both Mr. Akintola Williams and Mr. Omolayole continued in their roles as mentors. We're grateful, extremely grateful, for Dr. Kolade's exceptional and courageous leadership of the organization for 15 years, as our chairman has pointed out, our chairperson has pointed out. But let me particularly speak of Dr. Kolade's courage. Because, as you know, integrity always requires some courage. The organization was founded in the darkest days of the Abacha regime, when any form of dissent or criticism of government was treated as an existential threat to the government. At the public launch of the Convention on Business Integrity here at this Muzon Center, the venue was surrounded by operatives of state security. And they informed us that the event could not proceed because it could give rise to a breakdown of law and order. Well, we said to them, so you have to speak to our chairman about that. You know, the head of the team, of this, the state security team, then told Dr. Kolade, took him to Dr. Kolade, and he said to Dr. Kolade that we'll not be allowed to go ahead with the launching. And Dr. Kolade said to him, no way, we are going ahead. And Dr. Kolade gave one of the most courageous speeches that I've ever heard, scolding the government for lack of transparency and accountability. Incidentally, that day, many of the companies that had committed to signing the pledge, when they saw the way things were, they just declined to sign the pledge. Many of them. Of course, they later on signed. After the event, we still had to get everyone to come to terms with the idea. We were one company that eventually, and that was Cadbury, I believe it was, because that was that Dr. Kolade chaired at the time. Nobody else was prepared to sign. The role of the Ford Foundation and the growth of integrity is also very important. Ford Foundation heard about work and wanted to support the work that we were doing, especially our work on the Citizens Report Card and on local government. We had a Citizens Report Card on local governments where we got citizens to tell us what they thought about the work of their local governments and all of that. And there were a whole series of reports that we published at the time. But there was a hitch. Ford Foundation wanted to help us, but there was a hitch. Integrity at the time was not incorporated. The government had refused our registration. So we were essentially an organization in name only. We had no legal status. And of course, the reason why we were not registered was because the government felt that this was a dissident group. Dr. Akwasi Aido, then the head of Ford West Africa, decided that they would issue the grant anyway. And they issued the grant in my name. They took the risk of giving us the grant check in my name. So we could very easily have run away with the money, and Sergio and I would have built homes, I think, probably in Ikoyi or somewhere. But anyway, I think that we eventually justified their trust. We had yet another scrape, again with security operatives, when they raided our office at 34 McCarthy, looking for Soji and I. But they found our head of publications, Gwile Oshadipe, who was immediately taken into custody at 15 Awolowo Road. The only way to get him out was to submit, either myself or Soji would have to go there to the headquarters of the SSS. And eventually, I had to go. As a matter of fact, they had specifically asked for the professor, and I was the only professor in the place. But this Gwile Oshadipe looked like a professor. Wore glasses. I didn't even wear any glasses. So I'm sure they thought he was the professor, and they took him. So I was there for the entire day, I think till close to midnight or something. I was warned to go back to the university to teach what I was employed to do, rather than stir up people against the government. Anyway, Gwile and I were freed that day. 30 years have gone by, and the story of integrity continues. Commendable work has been done by the Convention on Business Integrity, and I'm sure we'll hear even more about that. But the fight against corruption seems to be still a huge struggle. We still live in a paradox. Corruption perceptions persist, yet Nigerian excellence is rewriting our global story. The paradox of the country with incredible talent, our doctors who are pioneering medical breakthroughs, our artists are defining culture across the world, our entrepreneurs are building billion-dollar companies, our athletes are breaking records, innovators are shaping technology side by side, all of this going side by side with a stubborn perception of systemic corruption. How do we resolve this paradox in favor of a country of global excellence where integrity is a cornerstone? Sometimes it seems that little has been achieved and that corruption in Nigeria is an intractable problem. But I'm convinced that it is not. Many countries have dealt with systemic corruption and won, many worse than Nigeria. We're no different. In any event, our survival as a nation may well depend on how we deal with corruption. It was Lee Kuan Yew, the celebrated Prime Minister of Singapore, who so aptly said that corruption is like the HIV virus. Once you contract it, it weakens the immune system. Every part of the body is compromised. Even a simple cold can kill. And this is what corruption means. The HIV of corruption weakens everything, from law enforcement to justice to procurement of any kind, and even the maintenance of the territorial integrity of Nigeria by the armed forces. Over the years, I've learned a few things about the fight against corruption. The first is that you need the full, unwavering commitment of the political leadership, beginning from the very top, at every level, president, governor, local government, and of course, ministers. But you must have the full and total commitment of the executive, and of course, all the other leaders, Senate, President, etc. But I must say that it's not enough for the political leadership to just hate corruption, assuming they do, or know its legal consequences. There must be a single-minded commitment to eradicate it. The second point is that leadership must be prepared to exemplify the transparency and honesty that they want to see in public and private life. In other words, the leaders themselves must be persons who want to display in their private lives and public lives integrity. The third is that the executive must have a clear vision for what success in its anti-corruption program looks like, and must sit with the judiciary and legislature to share that vision and get their buy-in. The fourth is that an objective must be to ensure that everyone knows that there will be consequence, severe consequence for corruption. The fifth is that the courts, our court system, must be equipped to deal with corruption swiftly. Practice directions, these are directions issued by our courts, by judges, Chief Justice of Nigeria, Chief Judge, must define how quickly and in what ways the courts must deal with cases of corruption. The sixth is that reducing the discretion of bureaucrats, especially with technology, is one of the most effective ways of preventing corruption. The seventh is that corruption is an economic crime. It is for the reason why people are corrupt usually is because they want to make money. And so the process of ensuring that people, the process of reducing corruption means that you must also ensure that whatever a person steals is taken back. There must be restitution. There must be restitution for whatever a person takes. You cannot simply slap someone on the wrist after they've stolen money and say, well, we dismiss you, go away. Corruption in the public service is not impossible to overcome. And that's the honest truth. It is not. I'll very quickly share an experience in Lagos State where, when I was Attorney General between 1997 and 2007, appointed by Governor Bola Tinubu, now President Bola Tinubu, we undertook a major reform of the justice system. and we tackled the hydra of corruption in the judiciary. Before we were sworn into office, the then governor-elect had constituted a justice sector policy committee, amongst other sector committees, to prepare a blueprint for the sector. The committee was headed by Chief Mrs. Priscilla Kuye, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who was former president of the bar. There was also Mr. Kola Ode, a senior advocate. And we conducted a survey. This was after the report of the committee had been presented, and we had a blueprint. We conducted a survey amongst 200 lawyers who are practicing in the Lagos High Court at the time, who are practicing there or who had practiced in the Lagos High Court. And one of the questions that we asked, amongst other questions, was, what is your perception of the integrity of judges in Lagos State? 89% of them, 89% of the 200 lawyers that we interviewed said that they believed that judges in Lagos State were notoriously corrupt. Notoriously corrupt. So we had corrupt, very corrupt, notorious. 89% believed that judges in the state at the time, this was 1999, were notoriously corrupt. Yet, from 1967, when the state was founded, up until 1999, when we conducted this survey, no judge or magistrate had been reprimanded, not sacked, not dismissed, just warned for a corrupt act. None. So all their records were clean, while the perception of those who worked in the courts was that they were notoriously corrupt. Our reform approach then, we then decided that we had to have an approach to this. As I said, we sat with the judiciary and the legislature. We had a meeting. My meeting with the judiciary, with the 7 most senior judges in the judiciary at the time, was to even find out what exactly the problems were and what we needed to do. At the time, they were earning 67,000 naira a month. Now, 67,000 naira a month for a judge, well, that 67,000 in 1999 was poor. Certainly, it doesn't compare to 67,000 naira today, but was still very poor. I asked the question, as we sat round a table, Justice X, you have a son in America. How much do you pay in school fees? And he would say, $12,000, and we'll write it down, $12,000. How about the one at the University of Lagos? What's your general expenditure? 10,000, we'll write it down. Then one of them tapped me on the shoulder and said, Learned attorney, you two know that this thing we're doing is rubbish. You know it's rubbish. We two were pretending to work. You know for sure, he said to me, you know for sure that there's no way 67,000 naira simply send a child to university in the US and another one at the University of Lagos. So we decided that, well, there was one big problem, remuneration, we had to deal with that. Another judge gave an example. He said to me, he said, look, to us, we were all sitting around the table. He said, my daughter fell sick one morning, and my wife called me from home to say, I have taken the lady to our daughter to a hospital. I don't want to name the hospital, somewhere on the island. And they have stabilized her, but they insist that to admit her, we must pay 17,000 naira. So I rushed there anyway and pleaded with the management of the hospital to allow me to pay let me even pay a little amount of money and then go back to the courts, try and raise money and all that. Said they refused. They said, look, we have stabilized her, but if we are going to admit her, you must pay 17,000 naira. He said, then while he was still talking to them there, a gentleman behind him tapped him and said, look, don't worry, sir. I know how you feel. We will pay the 17,000. I'll pay. He said it was as if an angel came from heaven. And the 17,000 naira was paid. His daughter was admitted. So as he was walking back to his car, his clerk, that's the court clerk, who was following him, said to him, my lord, do you know the man who paid them? He said, no, I've never met him before. He said, the man was in our court last week. He's a plaintiff. He was in our court last week. So the judge said to us as we sat down, he said, look, I have to make up my mind whether to run after the man and say, please, just return the money, or let it all go. He said, I chose my daughter's survival. I said, there's no way I'm going to ask anybody to return any money because I don't know where to find 17,000 naira. So it was evident to all of us seated around the table that we needed to deal with some of the issues that conduce to corruption or that push people to corrupt activity. So anyway, cut a long story short, we decided on several different areas, 3 major areas. The appointment of judges. The process was made merit-based, and we then started conducting competency tests to make sure that if you're going to be a judge, you must also be competent. We didn't allow a man, no man situation. We just simply said, we are going to find the very best people. We also required the Nigerian Bar Association at the time to provide character references for each judge. So if we nominate you as a judge, the Nigerian Bar Association must also tell us, the Lagos Bar must tell us, is this a person of integrity? Is this a person of competence? In 2001, we appointed 26 new judges from diverse backgrounds and fresh perspectives to the judiciary. The majority of them were very young people. You know, the majority of them who were appointed at the time were very young. They were bright, you know, already in legal practice, in academia, or legal advisors to companies. 2/3 of them were female. 2/3 of, and you know, because we were under the impression that if you appoint females, they are more likely to, you know, they are less likely to be corrupt than men. We were proved right, frankly. Extensive, you know, we did extensive background checks. We conducted those on each judge. Remuneration, as I said, was important, and to address judges' complaints around compensation. We brought in human resource experts to assess what would be a living wage for judges. So their salaries were quadrupled. We raised their salaries by 4 times. Then we established a policy that every judge in Lagos State must be given a comfortable home, not official quarters. When you are appointed a judge, we give you a home. It is yours for life, you know, and you choose where you want the home, you know, whether it's in the places where we have land, at the time, Lekki, Ikoyi, or Ikeja. They were also entitled to cars, which were to be replaced every 4 years. Then discipline. We established an independent process for investigating corruption, with the National Judicial Council taking charge, avoiding local interference. In the first year of the reform, we had sacked 22 magistrates for corrupt practices, 22. 3 judges were also sacked upon the recommendation of the NJC, for which their cases had been referred. We simply referred, any case of corruption, we simply referred to the NJC, and we waited for a recommendation, and we abided by whatever that recommendation was. By the year 2000, a follow-up survey was done on 200 lawyers again, just the same survey we did in 1999. 0% of lawyers at the time perceived the judiciary as corrupt, 0%, from 89%. That report, the report of the reform, judicial sector reform in Lagos State, is published by the World Bank. The World Bank published a report titled Repairing a Car While the Engine is Running. Repairing a car while the engine is running, the Lagos State Judicial Service Reforms. That report is a 2007 report. I think that the important thing and the important element of that is that we can reform the public sector, but it takes political will. It takes political will. Without political will, even the judiciary cannot really reform itself. And when I say political will, I refer first and foremost to the executive. The executive must have the will to reform. The Lagos State judiciary reforms is a small segment, and there's no way of saying that that necessarily answers the questions of how to make bigger reform. What is important just in terms of how the reform was carried out and why it was successful. Soji and I started integrity in our 30s. I was 38 at the time, and Soji was much younger. You know, I'm, of course, much more daring because he was a younger man. He didn't have this gray beard then. We believed that we could be that generation that would be the end of corruption in our nation. We really strongly held that view. But evidently, that is not the case. But the dream is still alive and perhaps even burns brighter today than when the date when the organization was founded. And that paradox of a great country with a stubborn perception of corruption is not merely a contradiction. It is crossroads for us as a country. It is the tension between perception and reality, the reality of what is possible. And I believe that it is entirely possible. But much remains to be done. There's a lot that we must do. But the past 30 years have proved something important, that the work of integrity is not futile. It is foundational and catalytic. There must be innovation, creativity around building anti-corruption systems for the private and public sectors. And there must be constant reminders that integrity or lack of integrity will defeat the greatest dreams. So as we mark this 30-year milestone, I believe it's time to reaffirm a simple but powerful truth, that our country's destiny and the destinies of many of us and the businesses that we run cannot be divorced from integrity. Our prosperity, our global standing, our security, our national cohesion all hinge on integrity. 30 years ago, integrity began as a bold idea by two young idealistic guys. Today, it stands as a testament to what perseverance, what conviction and courage can achieve. For the next 30 years will depend on all of us, our choices, our leadership, and our willingness to insist on a Nigeria where integrity is not the exception, but the norm. That work continues, and I believe the dream endures, and together we can build that Nigeria that our talent, our promise, and our future deserve. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, okay, thank you very much. Can I ask very quickly the two rows in front to come and take a photograph with His Excellency? We're going to take it in batches because he's a bit pressed for time. But please come on the stage and it would be easier. Please fill the seats. Can somebody help move this? Yes, if you were to sit, I think people will then stand behind you. Standing is better. Okay. Okay. Ayo, please. Thank you, sir.
foster local government oversight, something we take for granted, but it's actually the bedrock of how many of our systems operate, especially in the UK. Delivery of services always goes down to the local government, which is something we need to be able to adopt fully. So in my work in the UK, I've seen how strong system protects both leaders and citizens. Not because the UK system is perfect. Oh, trust me, far from it. That because consistency is built into the structure, systems where procurement processes are clear and public traceable, systems where local government publish budget, performance data, and spending summaries that residents can read, systems where digital tools reduce discretion, so decisions depend less on who you know and more on what the rule says. These are not foreign principles, they are a universal tool that helps society function. Nigeria does not need to copy any country, but we can adapt the best ideas, transparency, digital governance, citizen feedback, and independent oversight, and apply them in a way that fits our context, our culture, and our people. While we do this, integrity becomes easier, not harder, because the system itself supports honesty. And my own academic work in data and society taught me this simple truth: system shapes behavior. If you design a system that rewards integrity, you get integrity. If you design a system that tolerates corruption, you will get corruption. Because where institutions are strong, integrity, normal, where systems are weak, corruption becomes incentive. According to the latest global index, Nigeria scores, we know, very low down in terms of the ranking when it comes to corruption. This is not an embarrassment, I would say. I'm being positive right now. It is a roadmap. And this reform, and this means reform, is needed urgently because Nigeria is approaching a very high population of over 240 million people. A nation large cannot depend on luck. It must depend on systems. And central to this future are our young people, the hinge on which Nigerian destinies turns. Nigerians' youth potential is unmatched. Over half the population under 30 million entry into the workforce yearly, a tech sector that's contributing nearly 20%, depending on how you want to see that. That could be DCT if you want to look at it that way. This is not a youth crisis. This is a youth gold mine. To ensure young Nigerians are not left behind, we must invest in the future, and we must build an ecosystem that rewards effort and make integrity the gateway to opportunity. Reward talents, reward honesty, reward innovation. But integrity cannot be the work of the leaders alone, and I'm going to be coming to an end soon. Citizens also have the power to demand transparency, to hold institutions accountable, to refuse shortcuts, and to insist that public service truly remain public. Nations do not rise on government action alone. They rise when citizens choose integrity in small, and I repeat, everyday decisions that shape the culture of the country. Every Nigerian has a role, not as a spectator, but as a partner in building a nation worth of his people. Rebuilding Nigeria requires more than just good intention. It requires a clear national framework. And these pillars, first, we must value integrity at every level, from classroom to public service. Institutions, systems that are transparent, digitalized, protected from political interference. Opportunity, creating a pathway for young people to learn, work, and innovate in every community. And unity of purpose, government, business, community, and the diaspora moving in the same direction. Nations are not just rebuilt by wishful thinking, they're rebuilt by alignment. When our value, our system, and our people and our visions are all pulled in one direction. So let me make my own practical commitment. Today I commit, with the support of the team, after the conversation today, I commit to supporting establishing, if possible, a Nigerian-UK integrity fellow network. A leadership innovation program for young Nigerians committed to ethical leadership, transparent governance, and civic innovation. This network will equip young leaders with mentorship, training, and exposure to systems that works so that they can help build the system that Nigeria needs. And on that note, there are some systems that I wouldn't want them to bring here either. Right. But integrity must not only be taught, it must be transmitted, it must be embedded, and must be multiplied. So before I close, allow me to share this vision, a short one. Nigeria has the talent, the number, the culture, and the spirit. Integrity is the final missing ingredient in our rise. So integrity is the only passport that never expires. And if integrity generation rises, Nigeria would only rise. Nigeria would lead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Please don't go. Please, a round of applause for him. Rousing way to move us into our panel session. If I can call on our chair, Mrs. Ibukun Awoshika, to please join him here. Chief Obinna Waka, please, if you can also join them on the stage. Mr. Patrick Odimfe. Mrs. Ayo Maji. Mr. Kayode Okikiolu. Dr. Stanley Jacob. Dr. Samuel Abiola Jacobs. Last but not the least, Mr. Femi Awoyemi. Yes. Can we have the mics, please? Can you distribute them? One at the end here, one in the middle, and one at the other end. And one right at the aisle. Thank you very much, distinguished panelists. The first thing is that His Worship, the Mayor of Islington, has thrown down the gauntlet. He has put a challenge before us and said that if we're looking for a partner in the UK, we can look to his borough and we can get the support. But how does that translate into the integrity generation rising? How do we take that up? How do we use it? What can we do? Let me start from my chair.
On easy life, the head that wears the crown. So I get chosen. Okay, the reality is there are millions of Nigerians in the UK. I don't know the exact figure. And as a community, there's inductive effect in terms of our values. They comply with the laws in the UK, but the same people might not necessarily comply with the laws when they get back to Nigeria. But the fact that they have the power of influence, okay, if they build a community of voice and of purpose and can match
the context of who we are to the community where they live and the values they learn from where they live, and are able to communicate that as a group back home. Because every single Nigerian that lives in the UK has a community in Nigeria. And if we maintain a consistent voice of reason and we're able to defend what is right, we will impact and influence the next generation of people, one way or the other. So it's our permission. You know, there's something he said when he was making his presentation, which for me is more important. It's the fact that in our traditional communities, corruption is not acceptable. Have you ever seen anyone who in a village will take the ram or the goat that is meant for the village festival and steal it and will leave? Very unlikely. And before, if you wanted to get married and you go home and tell your parents, you know, this guy and I are dating. In fact, before you come and say you want to marry, once they start seeing you together, what will your family do? They will investigate the other person's family and check out their history, their records, their values, and all of that. And based on that alone, your family can say you cannot or you can. Honestly, we left what was right, abandoned it, and chose what is wrong, and we're paying the price. So it's really, whether those who live abroad or the largest population of us who live in Nigeria, how do we as a community reaffirm what our truth is? What is our right? What is our wrong? What is acceptable? And help this 70% of our population, that's where we have our biggest problem, young Nigerians, to truly know the history of the value system of who we are, rather than what they've seen. And how do we stop celebrating people for doing the wrong things? Because we show heroes who have built on the wrong values. They show off their wealth. People, they write books and people want to read the books and think there's value in it. They flaunt it and people think that's the example. And you're sitting there and you're saying to yourself, oh my God, we're in trouble. Because half the time, there are people in the circle of those people who know the truth about what is considered their wealth or what is considered their position or their power. So, examples for our community. Yes, our communities abroad can be part of that voice, but this is where we're building the brand Nigeria every day. And the biggest pain is the price we pay for it. Because the ordinary Nigerian child who is smart, brilliant, has applied for a scholarship, has gotten a scholarship abroad, and should be able to go, suffers and does not get a visa or that opportunity because he has a green passport. That's his own price he's paying for the actions of others. Whenever it becomes more complex for us to do ordinary things, then we'll realize that we are self-destroying. And at the end, we will all pay the price. Thank you.
Wow, okay. It's interesting to see that if all the Nigerians abroad, they are linked to communities back home. People back home are really frustrated. Mr. Patrick, let me bring you in because we know lots of young people express that frustration in their creativity. True. They use their art, they use other forms to try to express themselves. How do we mobilize all this powerful sentiment for change?
Thank you, Mr. Soji. To answer your question, I would want to begin with from where Mrs. Awoshika stopped. And that's because I'm so happy that she touched on something I believe is fundamental to us as Africans and Nigerians, and that is our roots, our ancestry, our traditions. And we are far removed from this foundation such that we are not I would say Western, neither are we rooted in ourselves as true Africans, and that's a problem. And that brings the problem, that creates the situations we're in terms of integrity and all, in a way. Well, this is where I'm heading to. Now, art is not basically for entertainment. I want to make that clear. I'm a cultural curator, and through my work, I am reconnecting back with my indigeneity. I'm an Igbo man. Unfortunately, I grew up in a family where my parents prided learning English language, and so I can speak my language, you know, and I have a 5-year-old son, and it hurts me that he is not connected to his indigenous roots because his father is disconnected as well. Now, this is a problem that many of us young Nigerians are experiencing, this amnesia, this loss of ancestral memory. And it shows up even in our character, okay? There's a difference between reputation, status, and character. So we are now looking or aspiring for statusship. And statusship is assumed to be the finality of what character is, as opposed to the other way around. Begin with character and build up into statusship. This is shown in our indigenous ethical framework like Omoluabi, okay, or Ezigbo Madu, where you say, this person is a person of character and so deserves to be in this position. Now, to answer your question, the creative space, the arts, the culture, the cultural sector, these should be vehicles to re-indigenize us or to bring us back to these roots. Again, not as entertainment. Now, it's very painful, it's very sad to see how that the Nollywood, and I'm not saying this to castigate these sectors, the Nollywood, entertainment as Afrobeat, praise certain things that are superficial. Okay, for Afrobeat, we see more of money, fame, as being praised as the ideal that we should aim for. When we look at the roots of where Afrobeat started, whom we all know, Fela, what message? You know, each time I listen to his music, the depth of his message, it's about integrity again and again, but that isn't it anymore. So again, through the arts, the creative work, it should be about restoring ancestral memory, restoring indigenous ethical framework.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think I'll call next on Dr. Stanley Jacob. Why? Because his work is all about innovation. So how do we square the two, going from innovation to... Do we have Mr. Jacob with us? Oh, okay. Then we'll move to you, Mr. Femi Awoyemi. Yes, because how then do we square innovation with going back to our roots and finding something to embrace as young people? How? And please, for the audience, we're coming to you next. Shortly, we're going to take some questions from the audience and interact with you.
Okay, a quick one. Everyone is so tired right now. I am. First, let me thank the mayor for his paper. But I think I would like to go back to two things to explain that. First was the, what did you call it, the Lagos State group that spoke here. Yeah. And then we went on to the very explosive paper by Professor Yemi Osinbajo. And then our guest speaker, the mayor, Alito. I think the fundamental truth is after 30 years of integrity, we must come to some simple understanding that the definition of integrity has morphed. There's a gap between how you measure integrity and what has become acceptable norms, considered as cost of doing business. And in terms of the role of the integrity body as a whole, the need for us to bridge the gap between what real practitioners are doing and what advocacy is doing must be bridged. Because then we have a question whereby in a society, the question of survival becomes an excusable aspect of life. If you take all this into consideration, then you can therefore decide to position the subject matter of innovation. What do you consider innovation? Innovation has always been a part of life. But if innovation has always been a trigger between the cycles of society, there's something in economics they call the collidium effect. That means inflation does not affect you equally, right? Just the same way as technology does not affect you equally, but also the same way as life does not affect you equally. The example Professor Yemi Osinbajo gave about that judge, let it not be lost on us. If you go to any hospital in Lagos today, the chances that your desire to save anybody you brought in there will mean that the choices available to you will be nothing being discussed in this room. You may call it cultural or whatever. We have permitted certain things that it has almost become cultural. If we are going out of this room right now, those security guards will expect you to drop something for them when they greet you. I don't understand what you want to call that. Even within the innovative space, you find out that most of all those technology space we have never, in promoting innovation, promoted character as well. Because most of the scammers you have are also part of those who are leading the innovation space in Nigeria today. Well, unfortunately, you invited me. I'm ready to discuss the uncomfortable truth. I'm old enough not to be worried about all these things anymore. But here's the real thing I'm saying. I believe very strongly in the concept of integrity. But the integrity is not a moral standard. Because we hide so many things under our so-called morality. The definition of integrity and the measurable patterns for it are very clear. Any of you here who has sat on the board of a company understands that daily you struggle with most of these issues. Let nobody push morality forward. Integrity, however, is, let me give you an example as I round up to give people space, because I actually deliver a paper on this extempo right now, is that there was a man considered a man of integrity that led this country. We never got out of when we talk about integrity and we talk about innovation, they are not mutually exclusive. But the way we present them is that we add it like a layer on top of what we are discussing. Over time, life just moves in cycles. We confuse cycles with trends, but the cycles are there. The triggers for what we are facing, like today, where we are facing the largest transfer of wealth in the history of mankind, ongoing as we speak. We are not talking about innovation because the trigger occurred almost 4 or 5 years ago. We are playing catch-up. But Nigeria as a country is in a more stronger position. So the role of integrity, as we talk about right now, is that whenever we talk about people coming up with innovation, there are some few measurements which you adjust to the integrity standards. Things like character, things like reference. And that's why you find most of your startups are almost shutting down because they just steal money and move away. Because we left all those space, because we are using the old models of integrity, which our funders or our supporters have always given to us. Permit me to end there because everyone is looking so quiet now, as if I said something.
Okay. Thank you. I see that you have a fan club in the Latif GCON. I was going to talk about them as well. Okay. Dr. Samuel Abiola Jacobs, and the audience is saying, please, can you just say one sentence about yourself? The audience is saying, please, can you just say a sentence about yourself before then making your contribution so they can follow better and understand who the people are on the stage. We didn't want to go into lengthy background introductions of the panelists. So please go on, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Soji. My name is Dr. Samuel Abiola Jacobs. I am the Managing Director for the Luxury Network, Nigeria, which is a private membership club and one of the world's leading affinity marketing companies with over 45 offices globally, so it's a global company. Actually, I wear quite a few hats, but I know that when you invited me, it was under the Luxury Network, but I feel like I can use some of my other hats as well to contribute to this, and perhaps that's what I'll do. I'm also an ambassador for world peace for United Nations, PEPALEC as well, where we are promoting peace, positive living, right? And of course, inside of that, we have the tenets of integrity in there as well, which is very important to be able to be a representation. I was quite intrigued and very encouraged by the fact that, you know, there is some partnership here with the mayor of Islington, because you can probably tell by my accent, you know, I wasn't born in Nigeria. I am a Nigerian from royal heritage from Ogun State. I'm a, you know, a son of Egbaland, and but I was born in the UK, raised in the UK, never lived in Nigeria. I can actually relate to some of the things my brother here was saying about, you know, not having the language, and I have 2 children as well, 2 big boys, and not being able to instill some of those things into them. But what I did do in the last 14 years was to move to Nigeria for the first time after never living here, never having any encounter with Nigeria, and I made a decision that I wanted to be a good citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you know, and contribute to that as well, and also be a voice. So my background actually, you know, apart from being a businessman and a corporate man originally, I'm also a humanitarian. You know, for over 20 years, I established my own non-governmental agency in the United Kingdom. I didn't get the opportunity to work with the borough of Islington, but I did work with the borough of Lambeth and Southwark, and we did a lot of work with young people, youth empowerment, to ensure that in the UK, and by the way, it was predominantly Nigerian children in the diaspora that I worked with, to ensure that they were good citizens, not just of the UK, but of wherever their homes were and of the whole world. And through that, we've been able to raise what I call, we've had a lot of success stories through the mediums of which the mayor also introduced and encouraged, through the mediums of mentorship, through the mediums of training programs. You know, we did that like over 20 years ago, and we've seen the results of that. So today, we have a lot of those youths that we put through our group mentoring programs who are now ambassadors of Nigeria, not just in the diaspora, but many have actually returned back to Nigeria to continue the work that they, you know, that they started in the UK.
Okay, sir, can I challenge you and just ask you, how do we multiply the numbers of people like that in Nigeria today? What do we need to do? Because we're talking about the integrity generation rising for a new Nigeria, and we're seeing that the people like the ones you're talking about, on their own, they are changing their outlook. How do we get many, many more of them? What do we need to do?
One of the speakers earlier, thank you for that question, spoke about raising an army, that we can't just be doing anything in isolation. I can't remember, I mean, one of the lady speakers, was it? Okay. But, you know, the term army was used early, and I believe that's going to happen when, especially the youths, right, are able to engage and able to buy into this whole narrative of integrity. another thing that was said today is, integrity is not just a moral ideal. In fact, integrity today is what I believe gives us competitive advantage in the marketplace, in society, in the community, because there's not so many people that you can point to, right, that are actually uplifting these values. So how do we do it? Number one, we have to keep telling the stories through the mediums of the media. We've got a lot of prominent people here that are doing their own part, but we need to promote more of these stories of people that actually, and businesses that are actually, and government agencies that are actually showing and exercising, illustrating integrity in different forms. We need to be able to celebrate people and individuals and companies who are actually, raising the banner, who are flying the flag of integrity, and make integrity be something that is that we want to attain, that the youth and the generation coming behind us want to attain. It needs to be something that is beautiful, something that is, for lack of a better word, sexy, right? Like integrity should be like that buzzword that I want to be a man of integrity. Interestingly, like this is one of my affirmations that I've been saying maybe for the past 15 years. In the whole long affirmation that I always say, or I try to say every day, is that I want to be known as a man of integrity. That should be something that we should all aspire to be. It should be an aspiration. And why should we want to be someone of integrity, a man or a woman of integrity? Because we can see the results of it. There was a podcast I did not too long ago this year, and sorry, just to end. I'm not sure actually how this great organization, Integrity, thank you for inviting me. I'm not sure how you got to know about me, but I know there was something that trended earlier this year where I spoke about integrity, and I think maybe that's why my name came up. And I said one of the things is that, for me, I don't play with the word integrity, because I've been in situations where by now I could have been a billionaire in dollars if I had pursued certain, channels, right, that would have made me very, very wealthy in the UK and in Nigeria. So I think that for integrity to really be powerful and to really change sort of the environment that we're in, we must tell people that it's not a sprint, it is a marathon. It is something that you will see the rewards would definitely come back to you, and you will be able to stand the test of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Waka, they always tell you, wait your turn, be patient. And we're learning now that integrity requires patience, and it's going to take time. How do you react to that? How do we create that critical mass of young people with integrity?
Thank you very much, sir, for that question. But before I answer the question, let me first and foremost take us back to innovation and integrity, and how also young people have been contributing to that aspect. Young people over the years have been underutilized, especially in this country. But if you look at other countries in the world that are developed, like Bangladesh, China, and co, they utilize the strength of young people to develop those nations. And according to the International Labour Organization, where our own country tried to emulate their policies, 777 policy of public works, it did not work because of lack of integrity among the leaders. We were given that responsibility to implement that policy of 774 public work. That aside, now innovation and integrity, how they are also contributed to the global recognition that we all are enjoying today. The Grammy Award just nominated Davido. The song that he remixed with brightest. Can I remember that song? Please, any Jay-Z here to, please. That song, please, help me with that song. Do I have a DJ here? That song that they nominated, that video song nominated for Grammy Award. Okay. Eh? With you, thank you. If you look at that song has to do with what? Innovation. Also what? Integrity. Innovation is in the sense that he copies some part from Brachimeze. Then integrity in the sense that he also gave Brachimeze credit. When that song was nominated a few weeks ago, Brachimeze danced and celebrated that milestone. Then last year, another young person, a female, Thames, is it Thames, that sang this song, Love Me Jeje, Love Me, is it Thames? Love Me Jeje, Love Me Tender. Thames was born 2 years when that song was released by Shegu Shogomi or something like that. The first man that sang that, the original owner of the song.
Yes.
Now, that song did not win Grammy many years ago. The song won a Grammy last year. Thames remixed that song. She added her own innovation. The song gave us a Grammy. She gave Shegu Shogomi, the original owner of that song, a credit. That credit is what? Integrity, honest. She did not just completely steal the idea or anything. So for you to know that young people, they are doing well in areas
A round of applause for the young people. Yes.
In areas of innovation and what? Integrity. And let me now answer your question. But before I answer your question, I think let me encourage our two brothers here. I almost lost my ancestral home, my ancestral connection. But we can still go back to our roots. Because as time goes on, we can apply traditional means of curbing corruption. Yes. Just like our board chairman mentioned, there are some things you can do in the city you can get away with. There are some things you cannot do at your home that you cannot get away with. Before I was given a traditional title holder, I embarked on a serious project in my hometown. I sponsored rural electrification project, a money that some of my mates is spending buying Mercedes-Benz. I said, no, this particular part of my own aspect of my community, they lack power supply. Let me encourage it. I called my uncle. I don't want people to know. I just want to do it in low key. Please supervise it with the power holdings. Let them just embark on that project. Lo and behold, somebody said it was my nephew or my cousin, my uncle's son, who is into Yahoo. I was doing it. It was ringing all over the community. That some person was the one sponsoring such projects. It was until when they called my attention. I said, no, I am the one sponsoring this project. It triggered the hearts of the kingsmen and the king. That was how they nominated me for Chief Percy title. So young people, integrity, honesty is very key. Now to that question, sir, I am an ambassador with EFCC. I was decorated as an ambassador in the year 2017 when I was a deputy director in the Youth Council. Why? Because of passion to ensure that we eradicate corruption in our society. But if we are all not involved in this process, corruption cannot be brought to its knees when especially the young people are not participating to ensure that we curb this menace. Yeah. Now, the tomorrow we are talking about, the tomorrow is for leaders. No, the young people, how can we get and take the mantle of leadership? I mentioned that Mr. President inaugurated 40-man committee, 44-man committee, for us to talk about leadership. We need to do what? We need to get involved. We will get there tomorrow, but how can we get there tomorrow? It is when we make the integrity our watchword. 2, in a hurry. The reason why you see so many of our young people today, they are embarking on irregular migration. They are involved in many meanings that I cannot even mention. So many syndromes that have eaten into the fabric of our society today. It's because of peer group. They're always in a hurry. Competition. There's no need for us to be involving ourselves in an unhealthy competition. I just mentioned few parts of my life story.
Yes.
And I want young people to also celebrate that. I live and I work in Abuja. I have assisted a lot of politicians to win election. You know something they always tell me? They tell people, you will see so many young people today that are involved.
Just, round up.
Yeah, they're involved in so many things or the other because of what? Peer group. Because of pressure from many of their friends. Avoid pressure. Be consistent. And be what? Look up to God. Because your own future is quite different from their own future. All fingers are not equal. Your destiny is different from other people's destiny. And the only way you can get there it is when you live a responsible life and make integrity your watchword. Because if you fail to live a responsible life, the failure of becoming a responsible citizen in society will cut up with you tomorrow, and nobody will come out to be responsible for your failure. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Okikiolu, I wonder if you can try to bring these strands together for us. What are you hearing? What does it seem like we can do in order to encourage this integrity generation to emerge?
Ooh, that's really tough, but I'll try my best. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. Well, I work in an industry that will challenge your integrity every blessed day. Every blessed day is one challenge or the other. I mean, our job is quite simple. We're meant to uphold a society built on trust and truth as well by disseminating facts and facts alone. We're also meant to hold the powerful to account. You know, people like Chief, we're meant to hold them to account. The politicians, those in government as well, we're meant to hold them to account. Our work also involves ensuring that we steer the conversation aright. So we set the agenda. When people are talking about a certain thing and we see that this is not really helping national development, we're meant to set the agenda right. We're also meant to fight corruption, fight insecurity, fight all of the ills in the society with our pen, with our microphone, and our cameras. That's quite tough, right? But I'll tell you my story. I started journalism about 15 years ago, or thereabouts. I'm quite young, okay, just in case you're wondering, I'm still very young. And I remember going for assignments then, and I'll see my colleagues, journalists, come for the assignments dressed in the most unflattering manner. They clutch their bags, they're wearing sandals and some very old jacket. And after the event, they would huddle in one corner and they will hand them envelopes for either lunch or transport. And it didn't look good to me. It felt very demeaning. I mean, these are people that are meant to hold the powerful to account, the politicians to account. And this is the kind of life they're living. So if someone gives them a fat brown envelope, come on, they will take it gladly, right? Because they have children, they have, families to take care of. So I told myself that, this integrity matter is very sweet to talk about, but in actual fact, it is tough. So I promised that, I will work extra hard as a journalist. So one, I can make journalism look good for the younger generation to want to be a part of, right? Because I mean, if I saw those people as a young person, I wouldn't get into journalism, right? I would get into something else, maybe be a banker or work in the oil sector. But more importantly, I told myself that I would make sure that I empower people with the right information to make the right choices. And here's my point, and I'm trying to tie everything together, right? Why do we have a challenge with integrity in Nigeria? Everybody likes the truth until it affects them or it's against them. I'll give you an example. I was coming to this place today and I got into traffic. It's meant to be a 30, 40-minute drive here, but I ended up spending about 2 hours on the road. And you know, typical of a lot of Nigerian drivers, they choose the other side of the road and start facing traffic. And I was thinking, most of those vehicles are commercial vehicles. They have maybe 18 people in the bus, 12 people in the bus. But you know, for that period, and I know a lot of us can relate, when our bus driver switches to the other end and is facing traffic, deep down we're excited that, well, I'm not joining those people. I'll get to work early. How many of us can relate? Let's be honest. So I realized that impropriety, dishonesty, whatever you want to call it, thrives because most of us keep quiet. Most of us keep quiet because it favors us. We talk about transparency in procurement until your uncle calls you and says, you know, there's this project that my ministry wants to give out. Can you handle it? You know deep down that you don't know anything about road construction. But you're like, 100 million. Who says no to 100 million? Maybe that's God sending money to me. I can't say no. You forget that there's a process to that, granting contract, procurement, and all of that. For that period, you forget, and you take it on, call somebody, and you get the job done. Again, we think it's good business, right? But the sad thing is, we also forget that there's cause and effect. So I'm trying to build something. We keep quiet when it favors us. We also forget cause and effect. So for those people facing traffic, now what happened was the other end of the road was now blocked as well. And that's what usually happens. So your decision as a person, which of course added up to other people following you, then ended up affecting thousands of people. Cause and effect. So one, if you don't remember anything today as young people, I can tell you that there is a power in speaking up. Now, I know we're afraid of dying, because that's the most, you think they will kill you. If you speak up against corruption, they will come and kill you. But I think it was Martin Luther King that said, and I'll paraphrase, that if you can't die for something, then you can't live for anything. Because that's usually the fear. I don't want to die. I don't want my family to die. Mind you, I was in Ukraine a few months ago. Don't ask me what I was doing there. I'm a journalist, so I go to the most dangerous places. And I saw young people laying down their lives for their country to defend the territorial integrity of their country. In fact, I visited what's it called now, a burial ground in Lviv. And just as I was there, it was a very emotional period. I saw a young man who was born the same week as I was born being buried right there. And I saw a lot of young people, good-looking people, people like you and I, better-looking people. But they decided to lay their lives down because they figured, what's the point if I can't fight for what I believe in, if I can't fight for my nation? Then what's the point? I can as well just end it right here. So I want us to set aside the fear of death. Because the moment you speak up, you empower other people to speak up. And I want to give you this analogy. We all hear 1 billion naira, right? And we think it's a lot of money, right? But you know that 1 billion...
Can you round it up?
Yes, I will, just right now.
Thank you.
But we know that 1 billion is actually a term that is given to a collection of ones. I'll say that again. 1 billion is a term given to a collection of ones. So we need to understand that built on integrity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I don't envy you, Mrs. Maji, because now you have
of integrity. I'm the executive director of a U.S. policy think tank called the Aspen Institute. What we do is into the trade, leading by values, and we know that integrity is going to be successful or not, whether the success of a leading by values, and we know that integrity is going to be successful or not, whether the success of a leader living up to their personal belief with the environment, with technology. A thief today is not the same kind of thief you had 20 years ago, you know, so it's a very complex environment now, which requires that leaders are operating at a much higher level. And of course, when we're talking about integrity, setting yourself apart, you know, from others by the choices you make and being driven by your values of being an ethical person, a person of integrity, somebody who walks their talk, somebody who lives by honesty, somebody who is trustworthy, and realizing that all of these are actually currency that would contribute to first your success, like I said, or even your competitiveness as an individual or even as a nation, as an organization. How is your organization viewed? Is it an organization that would cut corners, or an organization that would, stand on their word and do exactly what they say they would do? So integrity is a currency that we must all strive to live by, and see that that is what will get us forward, which is, what a lot of us strive for. So back to this 1 billion army. How do we build the 1 billion army? I would say advocacy, education, teaching, instructing over and over again. And what we've done in the organization I work for is we've built these frameworks that allow individuals as potential leaders to take decisions that will stand the test of time, decisions that are based on integrity, decisions that ensure that at the end of the day, you're not standing alone. You actually do have a followership because you've created a vision and they trust you that you will do what you have said, and so on and so forth. Is it possible? I would say it's one leader at a time. It's one youth at a time. It's one CEO at a time. And that is what we do, like I say. And providing these frameworks, equipping them to say that there's a difference between somebody who wants to lead for the moment and somebody who wants to lead for the long term and is able, like we've had a leader in this hall today, we're still able to call him even though he's out of the administration, but his integrity speaks for him, and we're able to listen to him when he speaks. Not many so-called leaders, can stand the test of time because they have certainly not led by integrity and all of that. So again, on the 1 billion question, education, instruction, sharing those frameworks, institutionalizing as much as possible systems that make it difficult for human intervention, because we know that left to the human, you want to cut corners. Left to the human, you want to do things that would benefit you, and go against laid down procedures, transparency, and all of that. So institutionalizing as much as possible, going back to our institutions of learning, building modules even into education, such that from a young age, all these values, are taught to people. Creating networks that, people can continue to tap into. When you're in a network of peers of like mind that live by integrity, then you're encouraged. You're afraid to be one that will stand out, or one that will come out on the pages of newspaper or the newspaper as having done X, Y, Z, because you belong to a community where you all speak the same language and you're all encouraging each other along this journey on integrity and leading by values. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to end this panel session, but before doing so, permit me, I'm going to come back to the mayor and I'm going to come back to Mrs. Awoshika, because I can't shake off this feeling that corruption persists. That's what I'm taking away, because we all feel it might still work for us. So we keep silent, we do nothing, and we still secretly think that, why should I change it? Mr. Oyemi is big today. Who knows if that's the path he took? I can be big too, so let me keep it. So, well, maybe the mayor, please, if you will go first, and we'll have. And since Mr. Oyemi has protested my mentioning his name, okay, you want, okay. We'll just end it.
Yep. Firstly, it's good to be here and kind of hear the different viewpoint. And it sounds to me everyone is all aiming at the same thing. And we're all coming from different angle of either lived experience and trying to tackle it. What is quite real is we're tired of corruption. And genuinely, I think all Nigerians are tired. But there's something I want to put in the room. If millennials or, Gen Zs, there is another group coming. And the question I want to, not a question, the point I want to put in the room is, how are they going to react to it? Because I do genuinely believe that tackling Nigerian corruption issue needed a little bit of time. Some of it we inherited. Some of it was some external forces that came in to kind of just want to breed in the divide and conquer you. You are more powerful. Corruption has become something that is being used to suppress people. You made a very good example where there are other people that want they want to make it fast and quick. Nobody wants to stay focused and be diligent and just trust the process of their own timing. And the point I'm making here is, I think our generation, the young people that I can see in the room, the one I can talk to, they've almost had enough. And we might have to just use the tool that is available to us to really expose how deep some of these are. You're sitting, my colleague there, the reporter. Every single person in this room now is a reporter. We all have the tools, but maybe we're generally just scared of using the tool that is in our hand. Gone are the days someone could have done something you're not able to say, look, I've seen you done it, or in fact, I'm not even going to be talking about what's going wrong. I'm going to show the good that I'm doing, the good, the integrity action you've taken on a daily basis. Why shouldn't those be the things that trend? Because I do believe with the world that we're in, with AI becoming more reality, everyone's talking about there's certain access to certain information that cannot be hidden. I don't want to go that way because I know some people have some concerns around that. But I do believe timing might be everything. And I think Nigerians and globally, the diasporans do believe that all the tools that we need to really tackle and get at corruption is there now. But let me just put this to the Western world. The reality is what we see in the Western world, how they've dealt, and I quote, dealt with corruption, has been a violent compromise. It has taken years, and it's still not perfect. But integrity needs teeth. A policeman can arrest any MP, any councillor, any local government person because they've done wrong. They broke the rule. Doesn't matter who you are. So whatever we want to do here, we need to get back to the point that those that are enforcing have teeth to enforce what we have the rules already, we have the laws already. So, without being very political, COVID, there were a lot of scandals about what happened with COVID, with financial things, how money was spent. People have to go through and explain themselves. And trust me, if you're being found wrong, you will be arrested and you will follow the rule of law, because just how the system works. So integrity needs teeth. I don't know how that's going to work. Maybe most of us need to join the police, join the army. But young people, we have to be part of that change. But that change, I'm hoping what Professor Osinbajo said, there needs to be a political will. I think there is, but there's several layers of people that needs to get plugged into the same vision as well. Thank you.
Okay. I think just to close.
Okay.
All right, because I think there's so much to the topic, it will never end. That's the reality of it. There's so much to it. But just a few things from what everybody has said. We definitely need collective will. And that collective will is not just from the government, it's also from the people, because we must self-police ourselves. We also need each one of us to take responsibility, because in taking responsibility, we will do our bit, and that would give us the 1 billion man issue. That requires every man being accountable for the space that is in and around him. 3, we must build systems that allows the rules to work and prevents as much as is possible the compromise that human intervention. You can't build systems without humans, because they will one way or the other. But if we have the collective will and we have the right people and we set the right systems, then they will self-check on one another. And then we must count the cost of a lack of integrity as a people and as a nation, and understand that we're all paying the price for whatever we're not doing. Ultimately, every single one of us is paying the price at every level. And what we must ask ourselves is, are we comfortable with the price that we're paying when we really count it? And then third, lastly, is we must decide it's time to make the change. Draw a line in the sand and start the process all over again. And the journey of 1,000 years, they say, starts with the first step. But our first step is our collective agreement that where we are is not where we want to be. And we want to stop paying that price and start building it to the future. And the young people are critical to that future, because you're the largest part of the population. At 70% of the population, and the one whose life will still be impacted the most, because by the rule of age, hopefully you live longer than the rest of us, which means the damage that we permit and we allow will impact you for the longest, and your children, if we do not start the change process now. And there is power in numbers, and you do have the numbers. Can we change this? Yes. For 30 years as CBI, we have continued to push the boundary. Can we do this by ourselves? No. We fought every headwind. But can we change this for good? Yes, if we have the critical mass of us moving on it and paying the price for where we want to go. And it will come in different shapes and sizes. Like Mr. Oyemi said, you know, what integrity means on one side, we all know what it means. We need to interpret it for the different segments, and that goes into the systems of how we implement it in business, in politics, in social work, in every part of our lives. We must break down what we mean by that, and we build the systems that helps us to clearly understand and not leave it to people's interpretation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to draw a line under the panel session, but Mr. Oyemi feels so strongly that just 1 minute.
Sorry, I just want to quickly just give you a report. There's a 2025 Transparency and Integrity Index report. Of 575 MDAs assessed, only 6 passed. No state government met the criteria. Of the local government, there are only about 14. That's your scorecard. So you can play the ostrich for all you want. But the scorecard is the scorecard. On that note, don't let us break our lunch. Thank you.
Okay, a quick photograph with the panelists, and then we sit down, and it's the call to action before we end. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, Mr. Emmanuel Bossa will now help us with the call to action and the conclusion for the day. I hope so. Yeah. Yeah, that's just. It's 1:30, right? Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. No problem. Good afternoon to you all. Please, can we give our panel a round of applause? They did a fantastic job. My name is Emmanuel. I work with the Integrity Organization, and it's our pleasure to have you all here. I'm here to do something that's very important, I think. And I think it's one of the most important elements of today. And that is, we've all heard a lot of very interesting conversations, some of which we know, some are new innovations that add to our thinking. But please, can I ask a question? Just by a quick show of hands, who here genuinely sees Mrs. Ibuku Awashika as a mentor, as someone to look up to? Just a quick show of hands. Okay, a lot of people, myself included. When she was first appointed to the position of board chair of First Bank, I was one of the very few people who did not know her that celebrated her, because it was not breaking the ceiling. It was completely obliterating the ceiling and creating a new dynamic of how we do business in Nigeria, right? Who here admires the mayor of Islington? Can I see a show of hands? We don't know him very well. So let me tell you a little bit, just in one line, about why we made sure that we had him here. Because there's something very important when we speak about role models, and the fact that sometimes we lived in a warped society where the people we choose to look up to have not always set the standard of the right things to do. So, a brief about the mayor of Islington. I hope I have everybody's attention. One of the key things that was mentioned was the power of collective action, because believe you me, at the end of the day, if we think that it is the responsibility of gatekeepers, such as His Excellency Yemi Osinbajo, to solve this problem, or that of the current Minister of Youth to solve this problem, we have missed the point. It requires all of us working collectively together to identify where we plug into the problem and identify the solutions and be part of implementing those solutions. Are we agreed? So let me tell you a short story. The mayor of Islington is here today because when I read about his profile and the national commendation he got for the position he holds, it is significant. He is the first black man in 156 years to hold the position of a mayor in London, in the United Kingdom. Now, we talk about integrity generation. It goes to show that it is not that we are lacking in talent. It's about meritocracy, opportunity, and we deliver. Do you agree? So one of the things I've called to do today is, what is the call to action? What is the responsibility of each of us? Let me go back to Ms. Awashika for a minute. I didn't mention her by accident. And I'm very mindful she's in the room, so please forgive me. When she took up the role of the chairman of First Bank, what I know now leads me to one let me call it one truth. I ask myself the question, how did she get to that position? What prepared her for that position? When she was in the hot seat, how did she navigate the realities, what I refer to as the invisible hands that often determine whether you succeed or fail in leadership? All too often, we criticize administrations and we say, oh, this person is not doing well. I can do better than this person. But what we fail to actually realize and have empathy for is that when you sit in the hot seat, the fundamental question becomes, you get there and you realize that actually what you see from the outside of when you're on the seat. And that is the conversation I want us to have today. Because everybody here, I believe, is aspirational. A lot of we heard His Excellency talk about the reforms to the justice sector. One of the questions that was asked after that presentation was, and how has it sustained in 2025?
I'm sure if I did a survey in this room, it may be very interesting findings. So what is the point of this? Because there is no light. That is a problem of integrity, corruption, and the challenge of national development. But what I want us to look at and reflect on, and what this call to action is, how are you preparing yourself to make sure that when you get that call up, you are prepared, that when you go to the world of work and you are challenged by a corrupt boss, you have the skills, you have the language, you have the understanding of what it takes to deliver, to circumvent, to find a way to navigate, to avoid the costs. Because believe you, and what we want this community to do is, one, let us sit together and network. Let us have access to resources that enable us to develop the skills, to develop the language, to identify the approaches, that framework that was mentioned earlier of how we address corruption, how we navigate the challenges of inefficient practices in the workplace, which leads to corruption. How do we make sure that we're able to find the right people who can join our cause, who have the right skills to support us to make sure we do the things we want to do? How do we get the right mentoring to ensure that when we want to climb up the corporate ladder, or whether in the private, public sector, we understand exactly what it takes to succeed in those positions? That is what we're here to do as a call to action. So I ask every single person, before I invite my colleagues to come on stage and explain what exactly they're here to do, can we all please click on this QR code? And as you click, it will invite you to register. And what I want us to do, what I want us to do when we register is join, access the tools available. We have tools, tips, techniques. So if you want to run a cause, so let's get one of the tools on that platform is called Integrity Movement. What is Integrity Movement? One of the innovations of integrity, at the risk of plugging ourselves, is how do you leverage technology to provide access to very useful information to young people who are trying to organize to be part of a solution to a specific issue. So the example, end bad governance. Why did that collapse? It did not collapse because young people did not know what to do. It collapsed because it was easy to infiltrate that particular movement. It was easy to counter-communicate what the intention and the aspiration of that end bad governance movement was supposed to be. So how do you develop the tools? How do you develop the understanding and build the network that you need, that when you want to run a cause, you can quickly identify when there's a saboteur in the system, you quickly understand, identify escalation mechanisms when you want to engage with government on a very serious issue? How do you make sure you identify the skills that you need to have and the role that you can play as part of national development? So as you click on this, it takes you to that repository where I hope that every single person will sign up. We're about to launch the Integrity Institute in the new year. That's one of the reasons you will get access to. And what the Institute is supposed to do is to identify young, hungry people, leaders of tomorrow, who really want to prepare themselves today for the challenges and the call-up of tomorrow. So I hope that as you all register, you begin to go through those resources, you interact with us on that platform, and we look forward to providing more resources through not just ourselves, but our partners. And on this, of course, I understand I'm supposed to introduce one of my colleagues from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. Please give me a round of applause as he's coming up. When he comes, he'll do a full introduction of himself, who will walk us through some of the resources that are available, because we worked in partnership with the Federal Ministry of Youth Development and the UNODC and brought in some of the resources that we also have to create a comprehensive set of resources that would add value to your lives that you can use beyond this, so that when we talk about the integrity conversation, we talk about it in a way that's meaningful and ultimately in the long term delivers for our country. Thank you very much. Please, over to you.
Thank you so much for this introduction, and ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon from my side as well. The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime would like to commend the Integrity Organization in partnership with the Federal Ministry of Youth Development and also with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime for the development and for launching this Integrity Generation Club. This initiative perfectly aligns with UNODC's strategic vision for Nigeria, especially our youth strategy, which is geared at empowering a new generation for integrity. This goal will also be the focus of the upcoming World Anti-Corruption Day, 9th of December, as mentioned by the country representative, and also at the Convention of the States Parties for the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. As such, we are very proud to have provided both research reports which go into the details of how to build integrity and have the necessary tools and knowledge for youth to be inspired to work for integrity, as well as e-learning resources and webinar series. So that's something that we are very happy to have provided and to have people really delve and engage with material. We firmly believe that this platform will provide useful information and inspiration for youth to become the torchbearers and trailblazers for integrity. Those doing the right thing even when no one is watching. Well done, and thank you very much.
Apologies. Okay, thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for my colleague. On there also, we have something called the National Youth Help Desk Ministry, and it's meant to be a one-stop shop for young people looking for access to, I believe, scholarship, support, training, and any resource that enables them to get a leg up in life. So please, and if you go through this repository, you would also have access to the National Youth Help Desk, and it leads you straight to that resource, and you can sign up and also access some of the resources available there. Okay, we have Mr. Osaro. Try to tie together all that we have learned from today and help us reflect on what the future should look like, because I would love a message of hopefulness as we live through struggles, but we're not down and out. There is still a lot to be done, and there's a lot to be achieved. I think we should keep giving a round of applause as he walks us.
I think this is a setup by Sergi. I finished my term at the National Judicial Council, and I think I've been invited back at the subcommittee. Now, when you heard the Vice President, former Vice President, talk about corruption and the index that has been used in measuring corruption in the judiciary, I think he said 89% of people thought that the judiciary was corrupt in Lagos. Today it's even worse. I think if you took a poll here today, I am almost certain that almost everyone will think, or let me try it. If you think that the Nigerian judiciary is corrupt and lawyers are corrupt, please just show your hands. Well, not bad. I see someone raise 2 hands up, but not bad. So, my remarks as follows. It's not true that every judge is corrupt. It is not true that every senior advocate is corrupt. But we need a platform of this nature to come up and speak about corruption. Many of the things that were said by the panelists I can identify with. My father forced me to come back when I was 15, back to Nigeria. It was very tough. And as a result, I joined the police force. But I tell you something. In spite of the toughness and all the corruption you talk about, I think I'm a success story amongst the senior advocates. And so, when I speak to my chair lady and my chairperson, and she knows the challenges in the judiciary, she's suffered it, she's a victim. When I speak to her sometimes, I'm almost certain that she thinks, you know what, how do you cope within a system like that? But the way I cope is by being a member of the CBI. And just being a member of the CBI, a lot of people believe that, you know what, if you can stand up and you wear you're a custodian of integrity, that means that something is happening within the judiciary. The vice president is somebody who I have a lot of respect for, and I became close to him simply because of what he stood for. And he's doing quite a lot. And only this morning, I tell you, Justice of the Court of Appeal called me to say they were setting up another 5 panels to clear the backlog, because that's one of the problems we have. And that's because that gentleman was able to talk to some people in power, and it's happening. So you can be the change agent. Osinbajo is not the vice president today, but he's doing quite a lot. We all have a part to play. Integrity is not about living up to aspirations. It's about falling up to systems. If we can actually create those systems, it will work. And you know what? It's just how we live. Truth of the matter is that I've run 5 marathons. 5 marathons. And I say I'm running to help to change the administration of justice. And Mr. Sojide is helping me to do so. Sometimes I'm frustrated, and it's very tough, and that's why we need this network of people. And perhaps, maybe our chairman can help us. What we need amongst companies is for the bigger companies to perhaps prescribe that they will only do business with people who sign up to some level of integrity. Maybe that's a way we can actually make it, we can infuse integrity into the system. Integrity is proven not by promises, but by processes. How we treat people, how we handle pressure, and how we honor the truth, and even when it is inconvenient. And I will share a lot of stories at another platform. May we continue to build organizations where trust is measurable, accountability is natural, and values are lived, not lamented. Thank you very much. God bless you. I don't know if Soji wanted me to do the thank you as well. Oh, I see. Okay, because this is impromptu. All right. Let me, and I followed this carefully, let me start by thanking our former vice president. Of course, he was one of the founders together with Soji, so we thank him immensely. But not only do we thank him for delivering this speech today, but we thank him for living up to integrity. For those of us who are close to him, you will understand when we say he's living up to integrity. The people who live next to you, the people who live closest to you are the people who can speak about your integrity. So we thank the vice president. Please send him that message. I want to thank my chair lady, my chairperson. She's my chair lady, tough woman. But you know what? You continuously win the respect and admiration of a lot of young people. When I told my daughter that I was getting Mrs. Ibokun to come and say a few words at the wedding of my daughter, she was ecstatic. Thank you for what you do. The mayor of London, I read about you long before you came here. When Emmanuel announced who you were and your pedigree, I think he was only talking to those who don't follow what's going on around the world. Your story is a story that went around the world. I don't know how many Nigerians actually picked it up, but you know what? We're very, very happy to have you here. We're actually very impressed. Continue to do what you do. And thank you for joining us, because you see, a lot of people who live abroad actually have a misconception about Nigeria.
People like you come, you give us credibility, and you go back and say there are people here who live better, perhaps, with a level of integrity than some of those in the UK. So thank you very much for coming. You do all the work, you make us proud, you steal the credit. When Soji goes wrong, we're very hard on him, both at the board and outside the board. But Soji, thank you very much for what you do. God bless you. Thank you. And thank you. Most importantly, you know, I think my chair said,
And my father always said that as well. When you're not sharing money or food in Nigeria, you are debating issues, concepts that will create a country that will want to live in. You hardly find people in the audience. So each and every one of you, you are a star. Thank you for coming here. And thank you for staying with us. God bless you. Thank you.
Please, can we give a round of applause to our Vice Chair? That was excellently done. My genuine wish is that at the end of today, all the deliberations from this conference would go viral, because I know for sure that we are being supported by some of our social media friends, one of whom I want to especially acknowledge. Her name is Adedemola Adewale, who is popularly known as Ade herself. So you should check out her platform, because of her work, we are now, obviously, we are out there in the universe and people are listening to what we're saying. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's been said. We've come to the end of this session, but it will not be the end of the Integrity Conference. This is only the beginning. We will take the feedback, we will take the input. I know there were questions that were asked. Those questions will be reflected upon. And for those who have provided the feedback, we will ensure to make sure we give you some feedback on the questions you had asked. It's unfortunate, due to time constraints, we couldn't handle those questions here. But believe you me, we understand the importance of building and maintaining our community, and we will do so by making sure you get some answers to questions that you have asked. Please do follow us. Go join us on LinkedIn, join us on Twitter, join us on Instagram. Follow some of the very important work we do. I hope you find yourself in the story of the things that we do, and you understand, and like I had mentioned earlier, always ask yourself, when the chips are down, are we all paying attention? When the chips are down, one question to ask yourself, what would Ibuku Awashika do? Then do it. Thank you very much and have a great afternoon.
Please, once we're done with this picture, please just go back to your seat so we can serve everybody their lunch, please. Please go back to your seat, please. Please go back to your seat. very much. Thank you very much. Please just take your seat so that we can serve you. Please take your seat so we can serve you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Good boy. It's in a me, take it easy. Catch some cruise, my teeth. It's for one for days. Come on for the body, know the breathe. Put on your shoe, make it stand that this. All your sorrow, make it dance them free. If you know be kalala, yeah. If you know be kalala, go get them poochie. Mama jogo, ijogo, ijogo, what you want, my jojo, ijogo, money, my jogo, and if you know be kalala, go get them poochie. But do back, Olua, yeah. Joy is coming, joy is coming. Dubai, Olua, yeah. Joy is coming, only early in the morning. Dubai, Olua, yeah. Joy is coming, joy is coming. Dubai, Olua, yeah. Joy is coming, only early in the morning. Open up, do what you wanna do. I want to be shut on what good. Yeah. Don't make that, don't make that. I want to live for the world. I want to live for the world. Yeah. It's in a me, take it easy. Catch some cruise, my teeth. It's book one for days. Come on for the body, know the breathe. Put on your shoe, make it stand that this. All your sorrow, make it dance them free. If you know be kalala, yeah. If you know be kalala, go get them poochie. Mama jogo, ijogo, what you want, my jojo, ijogo, money, my jogo, and if you know be kalala, go get them poochie. But do back, Olua, yeah. Joy is coming, joy is coming. Olua, yeah. Joy is coming, only early in the morning. Olua, yeah. Kẹ̀kẹ́ o, báyọ̀ wá fún wa ṣọ̀fẹ́. Kí ni mọ́tò kí máa fẹsẹ̀ ṣá? Kọ́lá mi dé, kọ́lá mi pọ̀ ṣá. Táyé bá gbé ẹ lékè, wọ́n tún máa gbé ẹ ṣègbè. Ọmọ kọ́tà tó ń fly by jet. Àìpọ̀tà ló ń pa mi mo tún tanná. Bọ́ ṣe ń paná mi mo tún ṣáná sí ògbàdo. Ọ̀làlọ́ ni. Bọ́ ṣe ń paná mi mo tún tanná. Bọ́ ṣe ń paná mi mo tún ṣáná sí ògbàdo. Ọ̀làlọ́ ni. Blessings follow me differently. Oh, yeah, to someone tell me. After many each. After testing our body. Don't want your validation flower. I be who I say I am. I know they fancy the lifestyle. I just want to sing for fans. I have ideas, plenty ideas. I know they fancy the lifestyle. I just want to sing. Olua, yeah. Kẹ̀kẹ́ o, báyọ̀ wá fún wa ṣọ̀fẹ́. Kí ni mọ́tò kí máa fẹsẹ̀ ṣá? Kọ́lá mi dé, kọ́lá mi pọ̀ ṣá. Táyé bá gbé ẹ lékè, wọ́n tún máa gbé ẹ ṣètè. Ọmọ kọ́tà tó ń fly by jet. Àìpọ̀tà ló ń pa òǹgbẹ́. Bọ́ ṣe ń paná mi mo tún tanná. Bọ́ ṣe ń paná mi mo tún ṣáná sí ògbàdo. Ọ̀làlọ́ ni. Bọ́ ṣe ń paná mi mo tún tanná. Bọ́ ṣe ń paná mi mo tún ṣáná sí ògbàdo. Ọ̀làlọ́ ni.
Tata mẹ́tẹ̀ẹ̀ta mama ìjọba wa. Kálẹ̀ tó kó pẹ̀lú mọ́tò. Hallelujah, Hosanna. Ọmọ ọjọ́ yẹn be somebody. Picture the sound not perfect, but I'm still 10 over 10. I'm God's favorite and blessed. Applaud say I came my son up. Shut down when I enter the bar. Only big ballers in my corner. Odoguri mi only ketu. Big fish, I drop it too. Another day, another dollar. From 940 to dollar. The money don't long plenty come out. Kò ní bàjẹ́ o, wá bá bàtà.
Olua, yeah. Kẹ̀kẹ́ o, báyọ̀ wá fún wa ṣọ̀fẹ́. Kí ni mọ́tò kí máa fẹsẹ̀ ṣá? Kọ́lá mi dé, kọ́lá mi pọ̀ ṣá. Táyé bá gbé ẹ lékè, wọ́n tún máa gbé ẹ ṣègbè. Ọmọ kọ́tà tó ń fly by jet. Àìpọ̀tà ló ń pa òǹgbẹ́.
last time I need y'all to roar. Now what the hell are you waiting for? After me, there should be no more. So for one last time, make some noise. Get him, Jay. Who you know fresher than whole? Riddle me that. The rest of y'all know where I'm lurking, yeah. Can't none of y'all mirror me back. Yeah, hear me rap, it's like G rapping his prime. I'm young H.O., raps Grateful Dead. Back to take over the globe, and I break bread. I'm in Boeing Jets, Flow Express. Out the country, but the blueberry still connect. On the low, but the yacht got a triple deck. But when you young, what you expect? Yep. Grand opening, grand closing. Damn your manhole, crack the can open again. Who you gonna find open in him with no pain? Just inspiration. Who you gonna see you can't